about spaceships. It's not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships.
Hey everyone, I'm Jason Ward from MakingStarWars.net, and joining me tonight is Mr. Rob the Sketchcraft, and down here below, on the lower floors of this apartment, of this UFO apartment, is Mr. Thronkill. Jesse, how's it going, dudes?
Hey, how's it going?
Yo.
Pretty good, pretty good. I am glad that it is Saturday, and we get to talk about spaceships. I don't agree with George Lucas. It is pretty much all about spaceships.
All about spaceships.
But George Lucas just has his point of view and he's sticking to it.
If aliens drove trains, we wouldn't care. You know?
Right?
Yeah.
That would be lame. Yeah, we'd
they
be
tried
like
that with Wild Wild West. It didn't work.
Yeah, clearly the DeLorean was the better car, not the train, for the time traveling device.
Right.
Clearly.
So yeah, tonight I figured we get into some Rendlesham, because it is one of the wackier but plausible, but has also super interesting explanations as to why it is real, but also there is data to say otherwise, that it was a real thing. And like I was thinking it's like important to reiterate kind of where we stand on stuff. And if you guys want to, you can as well. But it's like, I don't have any clue. I don't know if UFOs are real personally. I've never seen one. It would be rad if they are. They're the recent UAP report stuff basically is saying there is something. And I find that to be super fascinating. I don't really think that you have thousands of people that make up stuff and are just lying. I'm sure people are mistaken. People do want attention, but I do think that when you get down to the essence of it, if it was fake entirely and made up, it would just have died off. It would have been a fad, and then it would have passed on. And that's not
like Chumbawamba.
Like Chumbawamba.
Mm-hmm.
Len, you stole my sunshine, or whatever that song was called. You don't hear that shit anymore, do you? And there's a reason, because it wasn't real. It didn't have any heart. No, I'm just kidding. But so people who write in or follow me on Twitter, they'll often be like, you want it to be real. And the truth of the matter is, if it's real, it's fucking terrifying. Because it means that reality isn't necessarily what we think it is. It means who knows what's going to happen? Why are we here? Why do we exist? It opens up existential questions, not just personal ones, but for humanity. And on one hand, if you could make a wish and we are the only ones in the whole entire galaxy or universe or whatever, it's probably better for humanity if it is just us. Because I really don't think that they're babysitters. If that's what they kind of make it seem like you'll hear a lot of that. But I think was it you, Rob, who told me one time, you're like, I don't see them coming and putting out California wildfires.
Yeah, have you? Have they gone out once? You know what I mean? They've been like, I think they're starting them. The poor little ant. I mean, just think about this. When you're doing yard work and you see ants fighting, you go, I got to intervene. You're like, back to pulling weeds.
but and that is the other thing though, that I always say though, my stance on that is, if they are here, they do look at us they are interested, because if you take the general accounts, they've messed with us. There's something to it. And I was reading something on our UFOs the other night. They were talking about how our brains are being rewired all the time, processing information. We used to be all about memory, and we're kind of letting that go as we rely on devices, sense of direction, stuff like that. And they're so who knows how far advanced these beings are, because if you believe in the singularity, which we could be hitting in about 20 years, if they hit the singularity only 1,000 years before us, it doesn't mean that they wouldn't evolved 100,000 years ahead of us. It just means that they got those tech jumps, So
they
might
still
be
like box cereal. dude.
Yeah. And
never underestimate that just even though you have all this super technology and you can go across the cosmos, sugar smacks, frosted flakes, corn puffs, that never gets old.
Yeah. But I mean, they may be more like us than somebody like Neil deGrasse Tyson makes it sound. That's kind of my point. They might be more like our cousins, as opposed to something that's just so well beyond us, because like that thesis, there's not really any evidence for it other than the fact that they have fast fucking spaceships. So does that mean Han Solo is smarter than everybody according to the, you know what I mean? No, it just means that they have some really sweet tech and the resources to make that tech work.
And some
sorry, Jay, go ahead.
The older accounts too, you have people talking about how they brought aboard the spaceships and they were cooking. They were literally cooking meat in there, like somebody grills outside.
Yeah,
grill, and it's like so eerily.
Turns out
similar.
aliens invented the bacon wrapped hot dog. Yeah, and that was.
What is saying?
They handed it off to the Mexicans so they could stand outside Chavez Ravine.
They're like, you can't take that away from us. Don't give it to the aliens.
Dude, all I know is Mexican food is my favorite food, and if space aliens are going to show up and bring us something akin to that, I'm all for it.
Yeah, they know they really know how to tailgate. They do.
Yeah, you're handing out a chimichanga. Here you go. Welcome.
Human.
They're like these humans got their shit down. Let's just hang out here in the ocean and go over to San Diego and get some good street tacos and go back to the ocean.
We've been around the galaxy, but this sour cream, whatever this is amazing.
The battle for Los Angeles was a chimichanga deal. It was like a street turf thing,
Yeah, right.
They had territory and.
What's his name? Avi Loeb, who the guy is. I think that's how you say his name. The guy who got like that sweet ass donation to use telescopes to track UFOs in the sky. He was saying on every interview he's done recently, actually, that he's like, I don't think we're that smart. We do stupid things. Like World War II was for stupid reasons. I'm not quoting him directly, but that's the essence of what he was saying.
Every war is pretty much for stupid reasons.
Right. Yeah. No, and it's like, and I totally see his point, but I also think that those kinds of things don't really represent the majority of people. Like when a war really kicks off, like when you get down to it, it's kind of how I feel about it is out of my hands. It has nothing to do with most of us, And so it says bad things about humanity, but I don't think it necessarily is the last word on it. And I think an intelligent alien species, if aliens even exist, would probably understand that we have a very fucked up power structure in humanity.
Some of the critics, like Geek Furious,
love you, Geek Furious, but you need to come on the show so I could talk to you in a way that isn't on Twitter, because that would be better. So
they say hiding. Things like UFO came into context with Roswell. Well, that's not true, because the battle for Los Angeles and the UFO White House sightings, I think, which was right before that or right after that, I can't remember. Those were before Roswell. They'll have no context. We really thought they were. Yeah, we thought it was war based. They go, well, it was war paranoia. I'm like, no, it wasn't. Because clearly everyone knew that it wasn't. If it was thought that it was Japan stuff, but then it was clearly not, and they were shooting at something. Those photographs were taken by actual. There's an interview. I got to dig it back up. There's an interview that I think it was on Somewhere in the Skies, where this guy he happened to get a hold of one of the original AP photos through just an estate auction. Just happened to be in there, and they traced it back to a guy who did a bunch of work in Los Angeles as a freelance reporter, and that's the guy who had that photograph. That wasn't like a drone.
This is during World War II, when we have a no lights on policy. These lights show up. The curfew over Los Angeles, lights show up, and the military is like, oh, it's time to fire. It's on.
They just open up and they're just going for an hour and a half, I think, right? Something
they had the gun like this. They turned it sideways. Boom. That's how serious it was.
Doves.
One time I read an article saying that like a lot of rappers have lived because when people turn the gun sideways, the bullet spins incorrectly for how the gun's balanced, and it's not as accurate. So that's why rappers live. Anyways, side note. But
Biggie's like, what?
He's also that's why I had to get shot that many times. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So they fire on it. We have casualties because what goes up must come down, and we shot ourselves essentially, or our own people on accident, and it was just chalked up to being paranoia, right? Is that the gist of the story?
That's the defense, but
yeah,
it really wasn't.
Yeah, because and then there was also a movie made about it, and it sucks. I don't really remember it. But
well, 1941, like sort of, and then that Battle for Los Angeles. I didn't even get that. Like, I was like, why don't you just set it during the 30s? What is this? I don't even. Yeah. It almost feels like a giant. If you wanted to say the government might spend some money on a little bit of disinfo, like that would be one of them. But I just think it was just poor taste,
After bringing up Mr. Geek Furious, who is a friend of ours, and he likes to bust our Spaceballs.
He does.
Yeah, he does. And I will ask you guys, do you think it is, I don't know if anti-scientific is the way to put it, and the chat can answer too, and we will get to the chat pretty soon. Do you think it is unscientific to assume that there are beings in there? Should we even consider it? Should we, because I mean, when you get down to it, if we just look at what we have evidence for, those could be metallic looking flying starfish. You know what I mean? Who knows? They could be some kind of biological creature. There's all this stuff. And I wonder, like, yeah, and I could see the point to that. Like, yeah, we shouldn't go there. But then do you go and take away just so many eyewitnesses who claim this other thing? At what point is it scientific if to discount empirical data? You know what I mean?
Look, they'll tell you that your empirical data is flawed when look, my uncle, I told you my uncle worked at a nuclear facility for the nuclear silo base in the Air Force in the 70s, and these little meters that would detect, I don't know, the little detection meters were being set off by rabbits, and they would set off the silos. Rabbits would hit these little things, and the silos would get a false positive, and start the war games, the opening to war games. Do
you want to play war games?
He actually had PTSD just watching it because he got a lot of those flashbacks, and he was so worried that a rabbit would start World War III. And his superiors were like, just chill out, man. Rabbit's not going to start World War III. And so he didn't believe him. So he wrote President Carter at the time a letter, and then he got in super trouble. Because you can't go from your first line to the president, apparently. Right. But
that reminds me of this time I wrote Kathleen Kennedy an email directly.
And Twitter was like, no, you follow the chain of command. You go to Phantom Menace and then Twitter, and we got it covered. They got all the scoops, right?
Pretty much. Hey, that's one way of putting it.
Notice how we got it covered doesn't talk about UFOs. Interesting.
What are they hiding?
Syphilis. But I don't know. Prove me wrong. So turns out Dennis Lawson's running We Got It Covered just to troll Rob.
Wants to fight you so bad.
But when objects hover over nuclear bases and start setting off, alarms, and they're like, we're really freaked out. We're not even writing the president. We're just writing our first line about this, and nobody wants to say anything about it. Don't tell me 1 million service dudes are nuts, okay, well, it's not 1 million. All right, don't tell me 1,000. Don't tell me 100, Yeah. Because you're willing to believe, I support the troops. Well, okay, there's a metallic object setting off my nuclear bomb. Not about that. Like, I don't.
Not if it challenges my worldview.
That's my narrative, bro.
Freedom!
Yeah. No, because that's like the thing that gets to my brain a lot. And if you have anything to add, Jesse, just jump in, man. I'm not trying to cut you off, dude. It's like when you look at like the Tic Tac, video, like our buddy, he put up a video of visual effects artists debunking the Tic Tac videos and stuff like that. And I watched it and I'm like, number one, this doesn't debunk anything because it just ignores a ton of other data. And it says, could
the visual effects artists, what are we going to do?
Right. Yeah.
Spaz, the guy who directed Spawn, did he jump in? Because the visual effects on that were fun out. That clearly that's the devil.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I mean, but I do think it's interesting to hear like people that have that know things about cameras and visual effects to like look at it, and people who can spot CGI versus something that isn't, because some people just can't. And I do think it's like interesting to see what they had to say. And I was disappointed by the video when I saw it because they were just taking Mick West breakdowns that were re-reported in various news outlets and then just spitting that out as, there you go, dummy. And it's like you're looking at and there was a part of the video where they literally kind of throw shade at what's his name, the guy who was piloting that day.
McCraver.
Yeah, they like just kind of like throw shade at him, and then at the end they're like, "Hey, if you're a pilot, let us know." And it's like you just heard from one,
you just heard from one,
and you just discredited him, kind of in your video.
Pilot is that too.
Yeah, I guess I'm willing to bet they have a support our troops sticker on their fucking house. Like, I look as I didn't serve in a war, I served before the war, but
yeah.
As a guy who did his time, like, it always annoys me when I see people who have, like, I support the troops, and they were like, all right, we don't want to go to war. No, you go to war! Like, I don't want to go. Why do we... Needless wars? Like, yeah, you go. I'm not going. You go. I play Call of Duty, Like, so, these guys, man, like, it's funny, it's just like, we take, how do I say this? Like, okay, like when the fire hit the ferry, remember that Greek ferry like 2 weeks ago?
Okay.
There's this giant like climate change fires in Greece. Right. And this ferry out in Greece is taken out, and it's all the inside of the ferry is completely lit and bright white, like Camino, right? Like the Camino, like the interior, not the exterior, guys. But the outside's all in red. And like if that were in a movie, you'd be like, that visual effect looks fake. It don't look right. It don't, there's no bounced lights going on. It looks incomplete. It's moving in a weird, because the ferry's moving like this, so it moves horizontally odd. And I'm just like, as an artist, we create things that look like they're would be believable. It doesn't mean they're actually realistically looking, like
right.
Visual effects artists create things that people believe. Like, if anything else, that's crazy. They don't create things that are accurate. They create things that are believable. And sometimes accurate don't look a fucking thing believable.
Yeah. You're not wrong. Yeah. No, it's definitely true. It's like I used this example a couple of weeks ago. Me and my kids, every night before bed, we'll go outside, look at the stars for a few minutes, talk a little bit, look for the UFOs, look at the moon, talk about, I make it educational to some extent, and also add a little bit of wonderment to it. And I tried to take a picture of the moon one night because it looked rad. And if I showed you a video of the moon and the picture I tried to take, you would say, that's not what the moon looks like. This looks fake. And it's like, but that's what it looks like on an iPhone 12 or whatever the fuck it is now. Just the way that it goes. And yeah. So that's where the question that I oftentimes ask myself, though, is, where do you draw the line between taking eyewitness accounts and what people are saying? Because it's like, something as trivial and stupid as Star Wars spoilers. I could tell you where there's smoke, there's fire. Not all the time, depending on where you're looking at the smoke. But when you're looking at, it from people in the film industry, they might not be 100%, but it usually ends up being in the realm of accurate stuff. And when you're listening to people who just hear crosstalk and see things. And so it's like, yeah, I could understand how when you have, some like dude in a podunk city or town or whatever who looks like he drinks moonshine for a living is saying like the
being
UFO,
too nice. Thank you.
the UFOs showed up and you know, it was weird. Then you're just like, no, I don't believe you. And I mean, but I still think that there's a little bit of class kind of
class differentiation.
Yeah, there's a little bit of like class discrimination that goes on in that sense because UFOs aren't showing up in fucking Manhattan like necessarily. You know what I mean? And probing those.
First off, where are they gonna park?
Nowhere to park. Too much pollution.
You can't even bring the ship straight. Those are small streets, guys. They weren't made for UFOs. You know, they were made for horse buggies. But
if you say, okay, fine, I'll just go with that. And you jump up to, you know, people that are like, that were in like the Top Gun program and are fighter pilots and have like, you know, spotless records. And there's like groups of them together. So I feel like there's only two, there's like the one side of it. You go, yes, something happened. And these trustworthy military people saw this thing. Or there's the other side where you go, okay, Big Brother sucks. They don't really care who those people are. They don't really care about anything other than their agenda. And they fucked with them. They were testing out new drones and they didn't really care if these people thought that they were seeing UFOs, if the radar tech was having post-traumatic stress because his whole worldview was shattered by this event. So, and as we might talk about tonight at some point, those kinds of things have happened, but we are happen. Yeah, and most likely are happening at this very moment. Yeah. And even when, what's his name? Lou Elizondo was saying I was part of this program, they tried to discredit him and make him look crazy. So it's like, when you get down to it, you have a bunch of people that are trying to do these mini jobs and they sometimes will ruin people's lives just because they don't know how to handle information. They don't know how to
not to be confused with Captain Lou Elizondo, the famous WWF wrestler with rubber bands. And he chases the Goonies around the Goondocks and
flies in UFOs with Cyndi Lauper. Makes sense.
UFOs are good enough. Good enough.
But so but I do feel like if what has transpired in the last year is more of that, it is the most egregious version of that of all time.
Look, I'm going to tell you, man, this feels to me, my answer, my personal, I'll let Thrawn give his take. My take on it, Jason, when you liken it to movie spoilers, is you're absolutely right. Except when you have 20 years experience doing it, or you've been following it long enough, you can see a lot of you can see the patterns of bullshit. Like, I wouldn't fall for a super shadow, you know, like not the beginning super shadow, the Attack of the Clones the Shadow Falls super shadow. I wouldn't fall for that. Yeah. You know, now, like, you can smell that coming a mile away. I can smell
right.
This modern Tic Tac thing feels a lot to me like the Phoenix Lights. Or the Chicago airport incident with that floating object sitting on the Chicago airport runway that everyone is reporting, you know what I mean, including the pilots, and no one can move planes for it, and it wasn't a remote airplane drone, you know?
Yeah, like, when Jason is back on, I don't know, I think he may be gone next week, but he might be back the week after. Are you talking about that like jetpack looking thing?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm less familiar with that, but I know like it was quickly like, we're not talking about it.
Yeah, there's this like I really want to do like a deep dive on it because there is this thing that flew in Mexico. I want to say around 88 maybe. There's like VHS footage of it from a camcorder, and people were calling it like a witch. And then there's this thing in Chicago recently and another thing in Canada recently. And the
Chicago thing was like 10 years ago. It was like a UFO that was actually out on the tarmac that everyone was like, what is that? You know?
Yeah.
And it didn't get there. And how many times have you been on the airplane and everyone's staring out the window looking at things move around? No, how many times people go, oh my God! Like,
yeah.
like,
never.
It's never happened. Right? So So, and then I go, all right, so there's that response. Then what's the media response? Zilch.
It's always zilch.
Well, next to zilch, So if the Chicago O'Hare incident had gotten congressional hearings, and then that the day they release it, they also have a bunch of other, we're all going to talk about this other thing. Like, it's really odd how that consistently happens.
Yeah.
Like the day they're going to release some info, we just happen to do a military maneuver, or some other congressperson just has to give a speech about something that they could have waited a day later to give. They don't give speeches for a year and a half. That's the one day they want to say something coincidentally at the same time.
Yeah.
So the Phoenix Light.
No, go ahead.
The Phoenix Lights was my first real first-hand experience with that, because I was 19. I worked at Playco. I lived in my mom's apartment with her. I slept on her couch. It was March 17th or 18th. I told you, because this guy in a bus was driving around San Diego. A homeless guy stole the bus and was joyriding it like OJ around El Cajon. And then the news breaks from that, which they shouldn't have, right? Because everyone's outside going, yeah, it's right, the bus. They break from that to the orbs out on the ridge, Yeah. And Phoenix was like, what is this?
What a night for local news. I just want to say, they must have been like, yes.
Right. Yeah. And I remember looking at it like, because I was 100, other than like maybe like Bob Lazar at the time, I remembered him. I didn't really follow it. I was like, I don't really give any of this UFO shit any credence when I was a kid. I didn't believe in any of it. The second I saw that, I was like, I just had a different reaction to it than anything I'd ever seen before.
Right.
And I was telling you before, Jason, that there's a doctor who was following a lot of the stuff. Even a month before those lights, they had the same triangle sightings and the same light sightings in the same areas with footage the month before. So It's not like it was just this one night because they tried to say it was a military exercise. And like, okay, was the military there a month before? And they're like, well, no. Well, all right. So what was that? Is it's the same exact thing?
Well, and you mentioned, I was asking you, I was like, if it was just that, why didn't they recreate it? And you said that they actually tried and failed.
They tried to and failed. It was weird flares. It just doesn't look anything like it. And I just remember, and then it went away the next day. I thought for certain, okay, in the morning, I'll get up, I'll get the newspaper, and I'm going to see what was going on. Nothing. I was just like, nothing? Like, I bought every newspaper because I took a bus to work, man. I had nothing to do but read for an hour and a half. And I'm like, there's nothing? Like, what? And it wasn't until, that's when I started looking around the radio for anything, because I didn't have internet, I didn't own a computer. There's nothing on TV. And I found Art Bell talking about it. And then a month later, the USA Today comes out. And it had like these drawings. It was just really great. Dude, it's like a Wile E. Coyote diagram. Of like the mountain line, and behind it was this flare with the balloon. It would take it up, and it would, because it had to explain how the flares could hold, because flares don't hover in midair. They go up, they come down and move randomly. They don't move in order and in sync. They go all the way around. They're just too limited. They fade out. They were like, they had to show how. I'm like, why would the government? What was the point of holding a flare in place? Like what? Why did it take them a month to draw this stupid? And I was like, because they can't say it's swamp gas in Phoenix, Rob. Like, that's one of the first times I had one of those like logical responses. There's no swamp gas in Phoenix, Rob.
Yeah, sometimes this kind of stuff, it makes me think, like, not to say he's real or right or not, but like, let's just pretend Bob Lazar's a fraud. Let's pretend there was no Roswell crash. That was just a bunch of misunderstandings, like an episode of Three's Company. Okay. And so
Mr. Roper's like, huh?
Oh, Mr. Furley's like,
you're a Furley guy.
I respect Roper, but I'm a Furley man through and through.
All right.
No, but I mean, so imagine none of that's true. All that stuff isn't true, but the phenomenon is. Then what you essentially have are a bunch of people, the government, the media, who are supposed to be authorities on everything, who have no fucking answer. They just have no answer to it. And that is not a fun place to be in when you want to maintain control and authority and your place. You need to pretend like you have an answer. I mean, politicians all day don't know what they're doing and just pretend like they do, and it makes us feel comfortable.
They're literally denying there's a virus or climate change, and see how that's working.
Yeah.
You know, like we see it in real time every day. You know, what do you think? Like
it's gonna be over by Easter, you guys.
As soon as the heat wave comes in, it'll burn right out. You know, and like the hottest month in the history of planet Earth, right? Since human recording, right? And it's like, why isn't it burning the disease out? Like, what's going on?
There's no way that Afghanistan will be taken over that quickly. That was July.
Oh, you remember? And was it March 2001? I'll never forget it. It was Give War a Chance.
Give War a Chance.
Yeah, and I remember looking at it like I had that disconnect. Like, military told me, yeah, you know, and like the human in me was like, this is horrible. Like, who would say give war a chance?
Yeah. Yeah, no, and that's where that's like the kind of situation, to not go too far off the rails, but where you know, this horrible thing happened to us, horrible things happened to them, which is why they were that type of, you know, it's why Al-Qaeda existed. And then you end up having this thing where you're like, yeah, go fuck them up. That sounds great. But then you have the ulterior motives to it. But anyways, you end up with the situation where, you essentially are looking up for daddy. What are the answers? And then they have to pretend to be daddy and tell you what the answers are, and they don't have it. It's like when there's an earthquake and you tell your kids it's going to be okay. When you're like, oh shit, are we going to get hit by a tsunami in a second? Are we going to die?
Well, I think this is why you and I really like Aliens 2. I think you like Aliens 2 more than 1, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's because of the Newt and the Newt Hicks Ripley triangle there is so great, because you have Ripley, who knows for a fact there's killer aliens that these guys, the Marines, don't fucking understand what they're about to deal with, right?
Yeah.
Then you have the Marine like Hicks, who is the only one willing to admit, I don't know what's going on. And then they meet Newt, who goes, not only do Ripley, you don't know how bad it really is. Yeah. And eventually it's just like the kid has to lead them in a way that isn't George Lucas-y, right? Like, it's just because the person who can survive turns out to be this little girl. You know what I mean? Like, but like the adults don't have the answers. The big adults in the room, the giant corporation guy, the military person, the woman who literally fought the last alien, they don't have the answers.
Yeah.
You know, like and they have to all work together to survive this. It's a really brilliant film when you think about it.
But it's like, what does that idea say about us plebs, us commoners? What does it say about our reality? It says that either Big Brother knows everything and thinks we're too stupid to be able to handle it, or we are too stupid to be able to handle it, or they don't know anything. So it does kind of like, that's why I kind of dig the organizations. Like, I heard about this one on Ryan Sprague's podcast that are making these like little mobile units where you can like buy like a camera and like a casing, and they've written the software, and it has like an algorithm that can tell if it's a bird or an airplane, and when it detects something, it starts taking pictures and then it uploads them to a server. And the cost like over $1,000 right now. So unfortunately, that's out of my passion project price range at the moment. But they are saying that if that stuff, you know, they're hoping in 10 years it'll be like $250. And that's a nice price for Jason. And that's where, you know, but that's where almost like I kind of dig it in a way that we're like, you know, there's people that are like, let's take it out of their hands and let's just do it ourselves. Let's just solve it on our own, because that may be where we actually are. They may
they'll just blame it on something else. So like right now they blame it on drones. Back in the 90s, it was swamp gas and flares. And 10 years from now, they're going to blame it on Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. It's just a Bezos penis ship. You know, everyone they got
space junk flying around and just falling down.
It's a hoverboard that got loose off its leash and just drifted into the wind.
Yeah. It was a hoverboard in 1947, you know, too.
Yeah.
In 1942.
Space diapers flying. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was white slavers. Yeah.
Well, I mean, when it comes in regards to like the Tic Tac material and stuff, that stuff, I mean, I find it pretty credible when I looked at it, and I saw part of that video you're talking about, Jason, where they try to debunk it, and it doesn't come across like as somebody who wants to really be taken seriously, trying to debunk things. But in some of the stuff that I have seen before, I don't believe the government's completely in on everything. I believe a lot of it is kind of a mismatch of what you just talked about. It's a little bit of everything. We don't know some, we do know a little bit, and then we're scared to know what we don't know, and what we do know, we don't want to let people find out, because look at what we're doing with this virus. Mm-hmm. How are people going to react to another being? I mean, just flat out another being, whether it looks like us and whether it looks like the little gray guy with the two big black eyes. It doesn't matter. People are going to be freaked out. And look at how we're treating race right now. How do we treat the guy that comes out of the ship?
Oh, they're dead.
They wouldn't probably even get to land. I mean, seriously, right? I mean, unless they fought their way down and somehow just made it their wish. But
yeah, I mean, anybody who knows basic European history knows when they encountered anybody who seemed like they were a threat, you fucked them up. That's essentially right where they would go. Listen to if you guys want a podcast recommendation, check out the Dollop. They do so many good episodes, but that's just something like the vibe. The conquistadors, kind of stuff like that. Oh, they're a threat. Fuck them up. They go right. Our brains do tend to go right to that place. But there's a part of me that wants to be super optimistic that if we didn't know that if there were little critters up there or out there, that we would, maybe a lot of that stuff would fall more to the wayside. I like to think that that's how it would go. You know what I mean? Like, we wouldn't be so worried about little differences in melanin in the skin when there's literally beings that are gray or purple or whatever they are. And that's what I hope. But on the other hand, I could just see it going the other way. I could see there being people who just deny it's even happening. It's all a trick to get more money for military spending, which is a thing that is happening. They are saying that now, literally, actually.
What if they decide to land on the White House lawn just because they're like, hey, the earth isn't flat, stupid. Like they just get real tired of the disinfo.
And with that much technology, and if some country like China or whatever did have that sort of technology, why aren't they using it at more in a military advantage style type? I mean, what is taking them, any country, so long if they do have that?
If they had it, they'd paint white rims around it and march it out for 1 million parades, bro. Like, you'd never hear the end of it, And they love to show everything they have.
Some of them, I think, are just drones from wherever they come from. And then I think there are some beings in some of them. Maybe they don't come... it's like when we figure out, hey, we're sending people to Mars, but we're not sending a ton of people. We're only sending a few guys. And then they go... It's an expensive trip. Maybe it's an expensive trip for them when they come here.
Yeah.
But then when they get here,
we're not wasting it on those people. We got.
But maybe when they get here, this is what they want to do. They want to study us. It's like when what was that woman that went to live with the gorillas? She just took it all, and people were like, "Well, you're crazy. Why are you going to go do that?"
Yeah. Wait, you're talking about the band, the Gorillas, that band?
Yeah, Gorillas. Yeah.
No,
oh no, they sold NFTs. NFTs. Yeah.
I'm so
yeah.
Cancel the Gorillas.
I mean, there's been like suggestions. What do they call them? Techno-terrestrials is one idea, that they are like sort of a hybrid cyborgish kind of people.
We are techno-terrestrials.
Hello.
We love it.
Like EDM? What kind of EDM do you guys have?
Beat, Hans, hit the beat.
Little balls of lights in my hand, right? Little balls of light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but you have that kind of idea. You have the other idea that they have always been here and they've been in the ocean. That's like another weird one where you're like, it seems unlikely, but then at the same time, who fucking knows?
Well, why not? Maybe the ocean gives them a lot of the power they need. Maybe it fuels their engines.
It's why I love The Abyss, yo.
Great movie, man.
Yeah, and no, it's I mean it's a totally practical, possibility, I guess.
And, we talk about how audiences did not expect that to be a UFO thing.
Right.
Oh yeah, by the first hour of that movie, you're just like, what?
Even in the commercial where they showed the water, they thought it was a military. Like, they did not think it was UFOs. That whole film, it was weird. Like,
yeah, I saw that in the theater. I saw The Abyss in the theater, and there was no one there. Like, did that movie perform?
No. Yeah, I went to a full theater.
Really?
Yeah.
No, it didn't do well at all. Part of it was the marketing was weird. They didn't know how to market it.
Yeah.
The theatrical cut is hard to follow on some levels.
Right.
It's rough. It's rough to follow.
Yeah.
And there was just a general sense of, like, at the end of the 80s, genre stuff was becoming less mainstream at the time. Like, it was more like 3 Men and a Baby,
Yeah, there was that movie with, like, the airplane where all the people, like, show up, like the plane lands. Millennium. Yeah, like that one bombed.
Chris Christopherson and the blonde chick. Yeah, they took people who were dying in plane crashes and taking them to the future to populate the future.
Yeah, and Flatliners. Like I remember, like, kind of like
Schumacher.
Yeah, the more interesting movies that were coming out at the time, they weren't doing well. But if it was like
Short Circuit 2 with Tim Robbins, that was a good movie.
It was on.
Even Short Circuit 2 didn't do very well, bro. Like,
did it really not? Because I saw that shit in a packed theater, and nothing's going to change that memory for me.
I love that movie too.
I don't like the movie because it made me cry. I was like, they killed them.
They beat the shit out of Johnny Five in that movie. They just like
I'll never forget Michael McKean's horrible looking leather jacket and that blue shirt that he wore.
Yeah,
all right. That was the harshest beating I'd seen in a theater until I saw American History X, like 10 years later. And I saw that movie. I was like, this is as tough to watch as Short Circuit 2. And my friend was like, you're such a dick. I'm like, no, you got to understand. Like,
he was bleeding in that movie, bro. You don't understand.
Yeah.
You imagine if someone has anyone ever done like that Office copier thing, but with like R2D2 or BB-8, like just to show you how much that would hurt.
Yeah.
But like in a legitimate sequel, like if the First Order had dragged out BB-8 and just beat the shit out of him, do you know how many kids in the crowd?
What was the game called? Was it Los Lobos?
Los Lobos kick your ass. Los Lobos kick your balls into outer space.
Kick your balls into outer space. Yeah.
They were a band, Los Lobos.
Oh right, that was a
legitimate band.
That was the Dust Till Dawn band, right?
Yeah, like Menudo, Los Lobos was a band. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Menudo. Remember when those little kids smoked pot and then got like all in trouble for it?
Shika.
Just being kids.
I just love those 70s guys used to be able to wear like jumpsuits and bell bottoms and hair and wigs and not even be able to dance in sync, and they got paid. Like, I miss my calling.
So imagine with the UFO showed up then. That's what they see from us. Like in the movie Explorers, where they just know we're pop culture. That's what they think we are. They're like, what the hell is going on down here? We can't land. They beat the shit out of Johnny Five, you guys.
I mean, these aren't historical documents.
but to kind of like take it back to like the idea or to the question, what are these things? What's inside? Does it matter? Like, and that's where I think Rendlesham, taking us 43 minutes to get to it, but that's where Rendlesham kind of plays in to these kind of things. And for the record, I looked for a little while to try to find like a really good history of it. And the truth is, the Basement Office Show on YouTube does the best, I think, retelling of the general gist of it and what's there. So check out that video from the Basement Office if you want like just a stellar retelling. That said, when I was looking at written text to try to pull up with a show, most of it kind of, I just got the vibe out of a lot of it that it had that spooky music playing behind it, and which is another thing I think probably needs to go away. from all of this stuff. It's like even I even like the Bob Lazar documentary, but even like that one does it, and it's like it's expected, it sets the mood, it sells it to that audience. But in reality, if this stuff is real, if this is a real phenomenon, occurrence, or whatever,
you don't need the music.
It would, yeah. It's like, can you imagine if I took like, you know, the limo of your parents driving up from their wedding or whatever to go to the reception, and I put ominous music behind it? Like, it's like these people.
I wish you would have. It would have. I wish they had an idea of how that was going to end up.
They might have known. It might have been a good indication. No, but I mean, it definitely sets it up for. I think number one, I think it's kind of exclusionary, because it says you have to like horror. You have to like these certain. You have to have that campfire kind of freak out. Yeah, you know what I mean. Though, but
you got to find something to go. Look, man, we're excluding somebody here. I get that. No, the problem is not everyone's a George Knapp, right? Like George Knapp's conversations with Bob, and even like Art Bell's first conversation with Robert W. Lazar, are very informal and not. You know, other than the bumper musics, are not dramatized in any way. And you would almost think Bob was like just like one of us. Hey, well, you know, I don't want to talk about it. You know, like, right? And you know, until he's like, and then we brought our guns and we got to do a shootout. Or you know, we had to hide our weapons in the desert so the military police wouldn't murder us. Yeah. What? People don't know about that. You know, so I do wish these topics were handled more in like a Knapp fashion, like consistently. Yeah. Like that's like that thing with the Lazar documentary doesn't need all the theatrics. You know, the story is interesting enough.
Yeah, I think it should be looked at like how you would look at another nation outside of your own. Like, can you imagine if every time the general news that wasn't supposed to be politically biased in any way did a story about China or Russia and they put a synthesizer behind it showing how
I wish they would.
Right?
Here's the news from me.
Craftwork is just scoring it all. Yeah, no, I mean, it's just like, it doesn't really, I don't think it helps anything. But what we end up with in this story, if you believe it's real, or if you take the account, you do end up with something where you're like, oh, okay, so it's the other option. It's not techno-terrestrials necessarily. It's not, you know, or kind of maybe it is, but whatever. You know where I'm going with it.
Nihilists.
They're not grays, you know, or whatever. So here, I'm just going to throw it up, and here's just sort of like the general facts, because I hate to be lazy and defer to Wikipedia. But when I was looking up articles, I just couldn't find one that didn't have that campfire vibe to it.
I don't know how many times I've actually heard Nick Pope tell this story, but I think it's quite a bit.
Yeah. Nick, and he's on the Basement Office doing this one, and yeah, it's December 26th around 3:00 on the 26th December 1980, reported as 27th December by Halt in the memo to the UK Ministry of Defence. A security patrol near the east gate of RAF Woodbridge saw lights apparently descending into the nearby Rendlesham Forest. These lights have been attributed by astronomers to a piece of natural debris seen burning up as a fireball over southern England at the time. Let me put my glasses on. Grandpa needs his glasses, kids. Service initially.
Who is that man?
Thought that
Clark, where'd you go? Wait, Superman! Superman! All right.
Things are so dirty. Servicemen initially thought it was a downed aircraft, but upon entering the forest to investigate, they saw, according to Halt's memo, what they described as a glowing object, metallic in appearance with colored lights. As they attempted to approach the object, it appeared to move through the trees, and the, quote, animals on a nearby farm went into a frenzy, end quote. Once the serviceman, one of the servicemen, Sergeant Jim Peniston, later claimed to have encountered a craft of unknown origin while in the forest, although there was no publicized mention of this at the time, and there is no corroboration with other witnesses. So that's where we'll kind of leave it at the moment. So that's where we end up with the part where it deviates from the official story. And why did it deviate from the official story? According to him, it was because he didn't want to lose his career. And after his career was over and they couldn't really do anything to him anymore, that's when he started talking.
Can I explain to you just a little bit of like how much I give that sort of thing some credence in terms of not wanting to get in trouble or lose your. It's more like you don't want to get in trouble, because like I was a PF like E3 PFC and already my dad had a heart attack and I came back to spend a month. I had a month worth of leave saved up, so I came back to the States and stayed with him to help kind of nurse him back to health. That's nice. This is like the year 2000. The year 2000. The year 2000. And I had gone to a beach party and cut my foot on glass in the beach. Like big, and I didn't want to go to the hospital because I didn't want to get in trouble with the military for cutting my foot. Like, and you go, well, why would you get in trouble? Because when they want to get you on something, bro, they will get you on. If you get a sunburn, they'll give you an Article 15 for damaging government property. If they just feel like fucking with you. They do it. They pull that move sometimes. And I was not liked because I had a back injury. And at the time, you were like, just like the term they called me was broke dick. Like that was, anyone could just call me that. If you're a broke dick for, it was like 2 years in the military to be called broke dick by everybody. You just learn to put on that Lebowski like glaze. Like, all right.
All right, man.
I can
give it to you, man.
Bring it, Twitter. I can handle it, whatever. But I didn't want to get in trouble. So when he says he didn't want to lose his career, he didn't want to get in trouble. Yeah, I can imagine reporting some weird ass stuff like that. Like they could go, oh, you need a psych eval? My uncle was loopy after my grandmother died. And they put him he was in the Navy. They put him in a hospital in Coronado. Way to go see him. One of those old hospitals built in the 50s.
Just from like depression, just kind of couldn't focus.
Yeah, from depression.
Not fog, yeah.
Yeah, we had to go there, and these buildings were built in the 50s, so it looks like something out of Back to the Future.
Which makes you more depressed.
Which is weird. And he was like in a gown, like a medical gown, right?
Yeah.
With a teddy bear. And apparently they'd have like a recorder in there to record everything he talked about. This is pre-Teddy Ruxpin. But it would record everything he said so they could find out if he had suicidal thoughts or, Yeah. And it's just like weird. It's one step away from guys in nets catching people.
Right.
But the military does that. They do that, whether you think it or not. So I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And so, so he doesn't talk about it for a long time. And then the essence of it, he says that there was a craft and that he eventually touches it. And then he, sees some kind of weird vision-y kind of stuff. And then he has in the following days, he wants to write these numbers down, writes the numbers down, and it's binary code. And
be sure to drink your Ovaltine.
It's all in the year 6000. If your kid sets the rugs on fire, go easy on them. Yeah. No. Yeah.
Third kid.
Yeah, and it says, and then it basically like later on they break down the code, and it just says that they're essentially observing humanity, and that they're us from the year 8000 something, 8000 and some change. And so, what does that say? I mean, number one, it's whether this story is real or not, it gives us, I think, a weird cautionary tale about what the hell all of this could mean if the government doesn't really know, and how our assumptions can pepper things. At the same time, if you want to take my words at the top of the show into account, or make me live by what I've said, how many other people are saying this? How many other people are saying it's us from the year 8000? The people that are abductees and things like that, they're not saying it. So on one hand, I think that kind of works against it.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, Thorn. Do you have some thoughts on this one?
Well,
no.
His mouth was catching up.
Okay.
Just from what the stuff that from the videos that I've watched and the shows that I've watched about it, it seems that the British government was really, or was it our government that it was U.S. Air Force Base, or was it?
It was a NATO.
It was a joint base, right?
Yeah, it's a joint base.
But it was basically a British loaned based to us, I think at the time was what it was.
Yeah.
And so at that point, no, they weren't going to let any information come out, and they weren't going to let somebody like that tell a story. And I, I've I liked how in the story there was a spot. I think wasn't there a spot where it landed, and there was also indentations in the ground, or supposedly a ring in the ground as well.
Yeah. So the following day, or early that morning, maybe. I forget the exact time, but yeah, a crew goes out and the actual audio is out. Like you could listen to the whole audio of the dudes going out there and taking the readings. And they find the triangle like area, like depression in the ground. But they also kind of be like, oh, this could have been from anything. This could be from animals. I think it's like what they officially say. But they take readings and you could hear them taking the readings, and it's like 0.3 higher than than the radiation than everywhere else. And I honestly, when I read that in all of these articles, there is sort of a scientific assumption that the author of the article knows what it means and that I do. No one ever explains that. And so for all I know, you might park your car there for 45 minutes with it on and it might do that. Like I have no idea.
Yeah, what's the radiation reading right next to your microwave, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like it doesn't really, like, it's not clear to me if that's significant or not. But
not
on the audio,
context.
yeah, on the audio though, they are like it sounds like there's 3 guys in the audio tape to me. And 2 of them are like, okay, here we go. We do have something. Yeah. The one guy's like, yeah, it's going up. And then another guy kind of like dismisses it. Like, so what? And I don't know if that's because he's playing the official game, which is what you would assume if you assume it's all real and everything is true and all that kind of stuff. Or if that guy dismissing it is truly like because it's nothing. You know what I mean? But yeah, but I mean, he says it's like the soldier who encounters it says it's like this, black sleek craft and it's amazing and all this shit. And then
hold on, before we lay out that thing, it would be like me saying we took a reading and it's 3 degrees warmer in this one spot than it is anywhere else around.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and you would be like, oh, that is weird. Is it?
Is it? Yeah.
I don't really know, like I get that, but maybe the sun was shining there for 10 minutes, 3 minutes before you arrived.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. If we don't have a constant reading of what it would normally be just every day, what's the point of telling us it's 3?
Meanwhile, some government contractor's like, where did I bury that bin of fucking waste? Like, where did I? It's like the kid from Stand By Me who can't find his nickels or his glass.
Right.
Where did I put the waste?
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah. So if anybody knows the answer, let me know if that's significant or not. But yeah. So you end up with the kinds of stories that we constantly hear, though, that are legit. Like, I don't think that all of the guys and people who are working at those like nuclear facilities that were like, yeah, this craft shows up, these lights, and then they start turning on our nukes or disarming them or whatever the story happens to be, depending on which location you're talking about. Like, all of those people, most of them don't come forward as it happens. They come forward after they're out of the service, after their career they're in retirement, because what are you going to do to me then? And so his story, though, is not unlike those. It's not unlike most of the ones that we hear of people who do come forward after they can't be harmed anymore, or after there's no ramifications for it. So, you do run into that. And then we do have a thing today where they're saying that that the ramifications of reporting are being lessened, that they want to let service people report now. Part of me, though, goes, I don't know if you change that kind of culture that quick. I don't know if all of the media attention that service people are seeing makes that it will change that culturally inside, or if that's what they're saying, but the culture hasn't had a shift. Like, that's what I'm curious about too, for future stuff. Like, because there was Elizondo was saying something like basically 10% of encounters are reported by their estimation, or have classically been. And if that's true, that means there are tons more that happen all the time that were never reported. Is that going to change now? Will we ever see evidence of that? I don't know.
It seems like there's a lot more reporting in Alaska, from what I understand. Is there's a lot of people coming forward in Alaska.
No, it's all HARP. It's all HARP. It's all fake.
Refresh my memory. HARP is the conspiracy theory that they're controlling the weather.
It was this antenna array that the government built to basically either ionize the atmosphere, to we have a contingency plan in this country that if everything goes out, you're still able to communicate. Mm-hmm. Right. So we have like submarines that have antennas that move around, and HARP is one of those things that would allow us to maybe utilize certain levels of the atmosphere to conduct transmissions or whatever else. It was experiments, weather experiments, but it was an antenna array. It really didn't do much other than charging the atmosphere or not. And it was every conspiracy theorist like answer to global warming, to the UFOs, to everything until 5G came out. And then they all forgot about HARP and then went right into, I think they shut HARP down like 10 years ago. And then now it's the 4G, 5G nonsense,
I can't wait to watch all of these 5G conspiracy theorists buy their new phones next year because they want to post about 5G being evil. Faster.
Well, here's the weird irony of the 5G thing, right? They say 5G is gonna take the microchip them, kill them, whatever, brain control them, and the only reason why they're getting 5G is because everyone wants to watch streaming video, and on those streaming videos are conspiracy theories about 5G trying to kill you. It's this weird Mobius strip, right, where the serpent eats the tail in real time.
Yeah, I was loosely reading something, and someone was saying like the real like fear that should be coming from this is the fact that it, how much what they can track and how fast they're going to be able to track it from you from like unlike ever before.
They already have it.
On the Oculus Quest, you can buy an Oculus Quest for $299, which I've bought too. And but if you want one that doesn't track your shit, it costs $800. Explain that. But
but if you got a phone, it's already over because I was looking up ultra short throw projectors the other day, just to see where the technology's at, and now I got endless ads on Instagram. Everything's showing me ultra short throw projectors. Oh yeah, it's just ridiculous. Even if you just talk about it, like now I'm gonna get 100 ads, and you are too, suckers.
Yeah, no, there was a time with if you had Instagram. I don't know if Instagram changed that, but there was a time where if you just said a word and you had Instagram installed, all of a sudden you would start getting ads for whatever it picked up if it had been open in the background of your phone. And it's like, yeah, that kind of shit is completely, a thing. And it's not really new. It's I wonder what's going to happen when these motherfuckers read a TOS one of these times. They'll be like, oh no, what is going on in the world? It's going to completely change.
They're signing up for.
But yeah, so David says, excited for this show. Personally think the Rendlesham incident was extraterrestrial related, not hallucinations. Mm-hmm. I think the psychedelic experiments being done nearby were the catalyst, early CE5. And so, yeah, you want to explain the why he's mentioning hallucinations a little bit?
So Nick Redfern published a book last year that gets into bigger detail on this. And I think Redfern did an interview with Somewhere in the Skies as well. That kind of, he's pretty good about explaining what's in the book. He doesn't go, gotta read the book. Sometimes he does, but not as much as most people, so that's fine. And the idea is that there's a military installation nearby that actually did LSD experiments in the 50s on British soldiers, well documented, and they had a lot of the same hallucinatory experiences that these guys went through. And that they would do fog and weird experiments while they were high, just to record how they would react under these circumstances. Yeah. So the Nick Redfern proposes that this was basically another one of those experiments because it occurred over 3 days. First, he says it could have been this holographic projection for the ship itself.
Tupac.
Right, but that the indentation could have been a physical object. If you were high as shit, you probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference anyway. Like,
you're talking about Tupacarelli. Yeah.
Talk about what the Big Lebowski. Like, I mean, you know, na 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 na. And that they just wanted to see what the effects would be on people, and these guys were the ones that they did it to. Which kind of explains like why they had stories, right? Or like impressions, or, you know, like the weird alien languages. Because, you know, when the Joe Rogans of the world get high, they love to tell you about their trips on ayahuasca.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I want to take this as a moment to tell the U.S. government that if you ever want somebody to try your hallucinatory drugs, you don't have to trick soldiers. Just call me up. I'll come down and I'll see what happens. We could do some experiments if you want. I'm down.
It's the Disneyland version for army soldiers. They just get you high and let you experience weird UFO trips.
The thing want the ayahuasca rent, huh?
Yeah, if they want to go down to Joshua Tree and party, just let me know, government. That's cool.
You got to get a high colonic though.
I'll find some.
It comes with coffee, coffee in your butt. But like
Robin, like Robin from Howard Stern.
Yeah, it's a Stern reference. Then she got cancer, and Howard swears it's the coffee. It's just, oh man, 10 years of fun. The thing that I find interesting that Redfern has not posited is that if you remember, there was about 10 years ago, the Alex Joneses and those of the world were talking about the government had some weird plan set up for projecting holographic UFOs or maybe even God at the 1984 Olympics in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And so this is like around the same time, like, did the government have holographic technology that it wanted to use to conduct social experiments on people at the time?
Is this from those leaked documents that were claiming that they were going to try and show Catholic imagery over Cuba to make the
stuff like that. Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah, and this is weird, right? Because it's like, you know, when you take this story into account, did the government do they still have that? Like, what is, you know, because Disneyland doesn't have that yet. They have the mist where they project the world of color on mist.
I feel like if that technology existed, the patent would have either been commercialized in some way. Yeah, because Disneyland would want to have X-Wings at Galaxy's Edge. You know,
legit, right? Wouldn't they want to project a Star Destroyer over Galaxy's Edge or something? And so I don't.
Captain EO.
Yeah, Captain EO.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing Thrawn. I don't know if it's me or but I that's why I go, I don't know, because I can buy the government, any government, dousing their soldiers with LSD in a controlled experiment, not telling them, right? I can buy that.
Oh, sure.
Having the holographic technology and never using it to fake just even like to bump up their numbers on an invasion, like in the Gulf War, right? Why didn't they just project a few extra 100 planes to go in with them? I don't know, right?
At this point in time now, I mean, like this many years later, we would have caught up to it commercially, even if they never released anything from
maybe we haven't really caught up to making a SR-71 Blackbird, and that was developed in the 60s.
Well, I mean, but there's no commercial application for that.
You don't know, bro. Florida says hold my beer.
No, they're doing the Concorde thing again. That new company just sold like 20 of them for like $30 million each, and they're going to start doing that flight again.
Concorde. How old are we?
Right. Freddie Mercury rented one out, had a party on it, and was fined like $1 million or something like that because they ripped all the seats out of it.
Yeah, those things are bad.
That should have been in the movie.
That's what I think too. That and little people with bowls of cocaine on their heads should have been in that movie. Yeah, but I mean, you know, so you have those experiments, and like I could see that going like. Because when you play into the idea that one thing is related to the other at all, you could also almost reverse it if there was evidence that there was further use of it. But was there ever any evidence that it beyond the original experiments that it continued? Because that's like
the only thing that I knew after the experiment was that Olympic story. Sorry, my wife brought in coffee and she squeezes so fucking tight, bro. Like, just like,
when they do that, they want to emasculate you. They want you to know that they could open jars without you. That just because you're a dude, it don't mean shit.
Oh, I was the weakest guy in the military. So like skinny Steve on Captain America, that's me. Like I was the weakest. My strength is in here. Right.
It's
and up here.
Yeah.
It's not in the guns. Like I'm the weakest motherfucker there is. So, like, don't let my height fool you.
Yeah. No, I think it is information that it is important to take into account. And man, when it comes to the CE5 stuff, like this idea that you meditate and that you could summon UFOs, like I find that fascinating. I mean, important people, like, once again, like this Elizondo dude, he's either the most important thing to figuring out what's really going on, or it's the weirdest early grift that we're being taken for. I don't get that vibe. I don't think that's the case, honestly.
I don't get it from him either.
Yeah, but Elizondo has said, like, you know, there's this connection between consciousness and this kind of stuff. Then I hear, like, but then you look at Greer. That's the guy, right? Greer's the one who
Stephen Alan Greer.
Yeah. Who I keep wanting to call David Alan Greer from Living Color.
By the way, David Alan Greer, my number one underrated comedian of all time.
Oh, he's great. He's fantastic.
He is legitimately my favorite comedian of the 90s. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm kind of surprised that you just don't hear from him. Did he just retire?
Oh no, he's on Twitter. I follow him. He's great.
He does stand up, but then he when the Black Lives Matter stuff started to happen, he started to disconnect from a lot of the people he was friends with and stuff, who didn't align with his beliefs and stuff, and then a lot of the institutions.
Is David Alan Greer? Is he all lives matter guy? Is he like the outlier? Okay.
No, he's a Black Lives Matter guy.
Oh, okay.
So
I was like, whoa,
all guys matter, blank man.
No, anybody that didn't align with that kind of thing and that thinking and the whole 2020 thing going on, he basically was just like, I'm not going on those people's shows. Some of the podcasts I listened to, he was on there, all the time. And then he's just like, well, that guy doesn't agree with me politically, so I'm not going on there anymore. He's a horrible person. And it's like, he wouldn't even give people a chance to give them a debate. He just would say they're horrible people. And
I like it. Look, man, as you get older, you're like, I don't got time for this. I got how many years left? I gotta convince motherfuckers that don't shoot a guy just lying still. Like, no, I'm not doing it. But he is funny though.
Something about that.
So funny.
Oh yeah. So, anyways, I was going into him being a grift. The idea that he's a grifter, and Jeremy Corbell was doing a documentary on him, and then just halted it because he did something that he considered to be egregious. As we know, I actually like Corbell. Everything I know about him, anyway, seems like I seem like I identify with that guy. I like him, and the fact that he will pump his shit up. He is not against promotion. And the fact that he has a problem with Greer is kind of like, okay, that's kind of a red flag. You know what I mean? When somebody who promotes pretty heavily has a problem with that. So I don't really know that much about everything. I don't pretend to be an expert on all this stuff. I'm not. And so I don't know, but I definitely, like, whenever I've listened to him, I've had like a lot of red flags, a lot of that, like, culty trying to separate you from other groups kind of vibe. And I watched this documentary and I got the vibe that it was about, like, don't trust them. I'm the guy you can trust. This is
Stephen Greer, right? So I'm trying to remember this right. Stephen Greer was on Coast to Coast around 2007 or 8-ish, 6-ish, around there.
Okay.
And Ian Punnett was hosting that night. And Stephen was like, everyone's going to die, end of the world kind of thing. Like, it was just this there. And then Ian will go, well, I mean, what can we do to help people get around this problem? I think it was like the oil shortage. It was about like, we're out of oil, game over. World's going to end in 3 or 4 years.
And the aliens told you this in your room on the
Ian
holiday.
was like, he was just like, you can't tell people it's the end of the world, Steven. Like, they're gonna believe you and like commit suicide, do harm to themselves. You can't. And he literally got into an argument with Steven on air, and then cut him off. And then Coast to Coast had Steven on like a week later with George, and then just let him rant to high heaven. You know, like clearly they sided with the guest, and then Ian had to come out and apologize for it. You know, and so I'm just not like that. Stephen Greer is just a dude who likes to tell you the end of the world's coming, you know, and he's the only guy who knows what's going on. And Corbell shut him off, and Corbell just went up another point for me. He's already up there, just like that went up another ching, you know?
Yeah.
Because,
well, because like I said, Elizondo does talk about this. There are consciousness-driven aspects to these things. And so I don't necessarily like
Stephen M. Greer.
Stephen M. Greer. Okay. Yeah. I knew it sounded too much like David Allen Greer to be
I'm horrible with names.
No. And that's why I'm not trying to pick on you, but I am calling it, because if I sense it, then I'm calling it. But anyways, the CE5 stuff also feels a bit culty and makes me and sends up red flags to me at the same time. You're like, well, this does seem to connect with certain aspects of it. And like you were talking about, the doctor who was discussing the Phoenix Light stuff says that people have an emotional connection to it. And everything from the kids in the Zimbabwe incident, where you have children who are claiming that they had communication with, you know, and it's like, you're like, okay, so if all of this is real, then that component does exist.
Well, Stephen Greer, he's the one that started that Disclosure Project in '93 that was supposed to bring out the military people that had these experiences. That's why I was like, oh, this guy's dope. But he's a weird guy, man. Like, he's a weird dude. And the Rendlesham thing is like, it goes over 3 days, which is, I mean, that's not an indicator of a plus or minus, because the Phoenix Lights wasn't one night.
If you party like I've partied, sometimes it goes over 3 days. Sometimes you think you're done on day 2, and then there's a day 3. No, I'm kidding.
Have you heard of the Kings of Con? This is the Kings of Conspiracy, right? That's where, yeah, it's like The Hangover, you know, at S4.
Right. No, but yeah, it goes, it's like it's people, they're seeing lights. It starts with the lights. We get to the incident, and then we have the next day, correct?
Right.
And yeah, and then he goes on to say, or maybe future humans, but not hallucinations, is what he is suggesting. And like I said, I think the hallucinations part is definitely something to take into account, but the experiments with the drug with LSD and stuff like that was in the 60s, right?
50s.
Yeah, but that's where I got to dig further into the book. You know what I mean? Because I got the audio novel, think I could listen to it, but the fucking narrator there, I wish they would just let Nick Redfern read it, because he's British. They got this American dude who can't speak. So I'm like, great. Now I can't.
Might have been me. Oh yeah, I did that one. No,
it'd be like if I read you the book and all my stupid voices come out, ruining the whole thing. Yeah, and then Travis Walton came out and he was like, "No, you're not putting that up my butt." Like
yeah. Well, no. I mean, that's I mean, that's where you go. So, but what you do walk away with it, I guess. What's the takeaway for us? Like, when you have a lot of these encounters, there really isn't a takeaway. So you had something amazing to happen to you. It didn't happen to me. It doesn't change my life. But what you do have in this one is the future humans idea.
The future humans idea, yeah. Which, you know, once you can manipulate gravity, you're altering space and time.
Yeah.
Even Bob Lazar would say that, you know, when the reason why the spaceships look erratic is when you're in there, none of that's happening. They're not within. Yeah, they're outside of our space and time. It's a completely different experience in there. It doesn't look like that or move like that. It's just the way you're observing it based on gravitational forces on Earth. So the idea that it'd be time travelers coming back and looking makes a lot of sense. Even if they're not from our planet, they could be time travelers from another galaxy who are coming back and looking. You know, like if we were to go back, if you and me were to get into a DeLorean or a stupid train Train. Come on, man. How does the train land in Mesopotamia? I don't know. So, like we get in the train, choo-choo, we go back in time. Would we, like, tell everyone or land on the White House lawn?
Well,
like
if we were able to sort of quantum leap back to 1900,
great show.
We're still fucking worthless. I can't tell you how to make a cell phone. Yeah, we have cell phones.
Maybe and we have just what we're made of, and it's just we're so unique as a species. We're not like all the rest of them out there. They're fascinated by us and what we do, and especially what we do to each other. After we have apparently attained this knowledge that we didn't have 10,000 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, like
can a visual effects artist tell you how to make a cell phone now? That's what I want to know.
Nope.
Well, then they don't exist.
Not at all.
Okay.
Yeah, I could be like, E = MC squared. This dude with this cool gray fro said it, and he's really smart, but I don't really know much about what that means other than that shit's relative. And I have a relative.
I saw young Einstein once, and he got bubbles in the beer.
Yeah, he might have been Australian. I think he was Australian for sure.
He was very serious. I remember.
What about that guy with the spaceships on his tie? What about that guy?
Yeah, I mean, and it's like, but that's, I guess, where I'm going with that kind of idea is like, when if an alien comes and says hello tonight, can it tell you how this stuff really works either? Like, being an operator and being a manufacturer or an inventor or a creator is such a different thing, you know, like, and if any of the stuff, like, you know, you'll hear like, oh yeah, Roswell, we got a little alien and his name was Arnie or something. They have these weird names always when they tell the stories.
They pulled out his
I'm not the Duma.
Yeah. I mean, was it useful? Maybe not. Cause I mean, like, you know what I mean? When you get down to it, like, just,
they crashed in a Celica. What can you do?
Yeah, I mean, like I like to think, and maybe it's my ego, but I like to think that they are technologically superior in so many ways, but that our ideas about it being this X amount of years ahead is just bullshit. It's just some random. Oh, it's 10,000 years ahead. Well, what if it's only 60 years ahead because of singularity, you know, and computer processing and stuff like that? You know, that's where I always go with it, and yeah, so I don't know, but I do know that they probably have cooler drugs than us. They probably have cooler hallucinatory drugs than we have.
Space heroin's really fucked up, man. You know, you shoot up the space heroin and you see whales and Bespin and Lando.
Your ass though, Morty.
And you see they sing rock and roll tunes, and it's weird, man.
What if they are all just like Joe Rogan and they just want to tell us about like their crazy trips,
and they don't want to pay taxes?
That's why they're always in fucking Arizona and Texas.
Yeah, that's right. They got a Second Amendment right to not pay taxes.
So Red Rum says, I think it's 50% government counter intel projects, 40% fake, and 10% sensor malfunction, equipment malfunction. And I mean, in the end,
government didn't spend that much money doing that.
I mean, I disagree, but I will say this life and world sucks so fucking hard. Probably. I'm kidding. But you know, I don't know, man. It's just like,
they don't need to disinfo though. They just don't need to. They just ignore you.
They do so many things ineptly as it is already. Why do they need to counter intel us?
Well, every time there's a Star Wars movie and I start reporting on spoilers from it, I always get these people on Reddit or wherever that are like, he's making it up. No, I don't think he's making it up. I think Lucasfilm is telling him lies to purposely trick him. And it's like, they really don't have to do that.
Then why did you wait till now? You could have been doing that every week. Like, we got this, you know what I mean? Like those sites, I don't want to keep saying it, but you know, those sites that just every day they have some new info that just, wow, I wonder how they got it. Well, they got the world's greatest little network of birds.
Wait, are you talking about the Jawa TV show that's coming out?
Yeah.
No, but it's
or how about Black Widow is going to be in the DC film now, right?
She's going to be in Birds of Prey.
if you have a culture, which the UFO people or thing has, there's UFO culture, there's Star Wars has this culture, people just start making shit up. Cultural.
Hey, can we hold on? Hold on. I know I don't want to forget this. Let's start our own bullshit UFO site called "We Got This Covered Up." Right?
I thought of that. I was going to go with UFO and FAUX.
That's or UFO? It's like a UFO themed pho restaurant.
Oh, I thought of that too. I actually, I swear to God, I thought of that. I was like, wouldn't it be cool if I had the money where I would like go and I eat pho and I would have the UFO and we would just eat like and talk about it and be like, this is spicy.
I got beef knuckles in the freezer, bro. We can do it.
The logo could be a gray alien with a fedora, black fedora.
I was like, I was imagining it being my version of like Hot Ones. You know what I mean, with the wings, but we need really hot sauce in it. But yeah, we don't got that kind of budget around here. We could barely keep the StreamYard on.
People just burn themselves with soup and then sue you.
Right. So David says, fair enough. That's point of knowing the truth, I guess. And Ducky says hello. Hey, what's up, Mr. Momo? Quap says, what in the fuck is the guy in the top wearing? All
he's auditioning for Data.
Is a tinfoil hat. Dude, he's been to the future. Florida Frog
cosplay.
Says, do you guys think these current sightings of UFOs have a connection to the supposed Bob Lazar story? So yeah, we've talked about that one like here and there. We brought him up a few times. Like I do feel like I do like to take this like thought exercise where I look at UFO canon and then I like to imagine it's all kind of true. And then there's certain things I have to throw in, have to put in, have to take out. But like Bob Lazar is one of the ones that always seems to interface. And there was a kind of an interesting footnote. I'm going to call it a footnote because I don't think it's super compelling, but it's also interesting at the same time. Is the Black Vault? What's Homeboy's name from the Black Vault? Do you know his name? Anyways, he does the Foia request on everything. He's the Foia guy who knows how the
the Foia guy. I know
the Foia guy. Okay. Yeah, Greenwald. Is he Greenwald?
I don't, bro. I'm not good on names. Yeah, I'm not. It's David Allen Greer.
I think it's John Greenwald. And he did one, and what he did was he did a FOIA request to see if the FBI had either, I think, like raided or had a file on Bob Lazar's corporation. They don't have one. So during the middle of Jeremy's documentary on Lazar, he's raided, and so that's when that documentary came out. I guess that's when he started filing these. He got one. They never did. There's no file in their archives for his corporation. And I think the official story is he was raided over some elements that he had or some kind of thing that he had for the corporation. It doesn't mean anything. I mean, I think Greenwald...
It's not the first time though, because like he talked about being raided by them over having, because he would do the mail order. He does mail order chemistry set stuff, really for like schools and hobbyists, like just chemistry set stuff. And he's even said if he won the lotto, he would just do everything he could to get people chemistry sets because people need more fucking science in their life. But even now, after the Patriot Act, you know, if you're like, I'm going to send someone like 2 ounces of phosphorus, oh my God, it's irradiated materials, we got to raid them. You know, like they use the Patriot Act to shut down legitimate science. It's awfully strange. I mean, maybe that's why Radio Shack is gone. No, but conspiracies. But it's not the first time. The fact that it happened on camera is either the world's greatest coincidence or also par for the course for Bob, right?
Right. Yeah. No. And so anyways, Bob Lazar, like my personal feeling is like somebody, I feel like my connection to him or to that story is like somebody you love, trust, believe, telling you that they had a vision of Jesus coming to come to them. And like I had a family member tell me this before, and I am still there's just this part of me, it's in my very nature, if there is a heaven and a hell and you must believe in Jesus, I'm going to hell. And it's not that I don't want to believe and that I didn't try when I was a younger kid and I was kind of forced into that thing. When my parents told me about Santa Claus, I said, okay, I want the present. And I didn't fucking believe them. And I wanted
but
to
if the Department of Naval Intelligence cut you a check for hanging out with Jesus, I'd give it a lot more credence.
Sure.
Too.
No. But where I'm going with it is like, I want to believe Bob Lazar's story, but it just happens to be so fantastic that without there being like, there keeps being all of this circumstantial evidence around it that makes me go like, that makes me not discount it. I don't care if the guy pimped for a while. Or did the books for a cat house or whatever. It doesn't matter.
Think about all the circumstantial information surrounding Howard Hughes.
Yeah.
Well, not even him, but there's a guy that recently that just died, where he said he did work at some underground base for the CIA, where he got into a shootout with the aliens, right? And he was actually injured. And he showed his injury there at one of the meetings that he was holding I think it was up until 2019. And then he suddenly had a heart attack last year.
Yeah.
Out of the blue. That's supposedly
it was Epstein.
Yeah.
That was his story, is that he worked down in the tunnels and they were having some sort of firefight with an alien crew.
Yeah, I on a complete, like, just like a little, you made me think of this thing on Ryan Sprague's podcast that I was listening to, where it was like his top 5 alien stories or UFO encounter stories or whatever. And it was the one about, I think he's a Mexican pilot, and 2 UFOs, like a UFO smacks him in the bottom of his plane. And then the UFOs actually grab his wings and guide him in, I think, as the story goes. And depending on how you see it told, they're either helping him or fucking with him. Like, I've literally heard the story both ways. And when I think I heard it on Ryan Sprague show, I think he was saying they were actually helping me. They were helping guide me in and not letting me crash. Like, they had hit him on accident and then we're like, oh, sorry, dude, and helped him. But
like Superman.
But in that interview or in that conversation, he says, like, yeah, unfortunately he's died now. You know what I mean? And and the people involved, there's always this like thing where everyone's always talking about the past. And when they start talking about the past, they're at the end of their life and they're about to die. So they're always up against the clock and getting these people on record and getting, that kind of stuff. But then you also run into the other side of it, like the conspiratorial side of, or did he have a heart attack?
Were they socialist aliens, or were they helping the Mexican government?
Well, I mean, and
was it a caravan of aliens?
But I mean, and there is an actual political side of all of this stuff, I think, to consider too, that I don't really hear talked about. And maybe it's ridiculous, I don't know, but I always think about this. What if they are essentially socialist fucking hippies who make themselves known in 1947 to us as we're afraid of communists and all that shit? We're just like, fuck no. Like the guys who were running the government at the time, that really could be, because we're going to have an interpretation of their political system. And the idea that an advanced race of beings is going to share our version of representative democracy and capitalism, because we know this isn't the best system. The founding fathers who created a lot of what we still use were like, it's not the best system. It's just our best idea. And you look at it in the other way, like, if they do have a better system, did they ever try to share it? Did it just sound commie-like to us? And we were like, the 1950s G-man was like, F no, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of weird stuff that goes in with this. I mean, and then you also have like the Elizondo thing where the guy was telling him they're demons. And,
that's why I'm like, yeah, okay, demons.
But I think, but I also like, there's a lot of stuff about trying to make this like, and I think Greer is maybe even one of the ones who's criticizing it, but saying that it's trying to make, I think I could be wrong about that, but trying to say that they're trying to make a theory of everything paranormal, to lump it all.
I don't like theories of everything. That's humans trying to get everything figured out in one simple equation. And I'm like, I can't show me one menu that covers one item on a menu that covers every taste. That's why you have sides. That's why you have appetizers and dessert.
I do buy into like certain, like for instance that woman's YouTube channel I dig, another tinfoil hat. she cites like fairy lore oftentimes, and how fairy lore sounds just like these UFO encounters, how the actual essence of the mythical tale itself, if you want to look at it as that, overlap and are the same. And it's like, so once again, you essentially have a cultural component with how do you decode what you're seeing, and you take it into these, to your own culture's own terms, and then that's how you deal with it.
Guess what the scriptment is for the Green Knight too?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, but you know, so you have, there's a cultural side and a spiritual worldview side to these things. And like when you see these kind of things discussed on the news or whatever, it's so surface level. You know, you will have the little synthesizer like I talked about, and they kind of like regulate it into this, oh, want to hear a spooky story kind of thing, but they never talk about why it's so bad to discuss these things, and they never talk about like what these things mean to religion, or even like our own mythologies about where we come from and why we exist. And the only place you see it, and I don't like the show, I actually don't like Ancient Aliens, like that show. I think it's like, it just feels like garbage to me, and it feels like any random thing, like the random shit we're just bringing up like on the show tonight, they'll soundbite that into being, this is an analysis and it has merit and weight all the time. And you're like,
yeah, this analysis is 3% higher than the other analysis.
Right? Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, sure, why not? I think with the media, though, the three best films that encapsulate American media perfectly is Network, Broadcast News, and Anchorman. Like, and I really feel like it's this level of absurdity, and it's a commercial product. You know, they're not really out there. You know, there's ego and there's ratings, and then there's, you know, the somewhat journalistic pursuit of truth that just is going to get more than likely quashed by the other two.
Yeah.
You know,
because if we did have, let's say, a brief encounter with aliens, the government, and if they did tell us, we don't really want anything to do with you, we are just checking stuff out, we don't want to
making experimental films.
No, and then they go away, right? They just go away, and then they're just flying around up there doing their like thing. What does the government do with that? They end up with this situation where it tears down a lot of, or it could tear down certain ideas of religion or origin stories and stuff like that. But the reality of it is, like, my father is a devout Christian, and he's like, no, this doesn't change anything. It just, this means that means this, you know, it's just, people simply reconfigure, but maybe not everybody, you know, and it once again says who the top dog is in the galaxy, and it's not us. And I think that might be a dangerous notion.
Spoilers: the galaxy itself will destroy us before we destroy the galaxy. Do you know what I mean? Like, right. It's funny when humans think we're the most powerful thing in the universe. No, literally, the sun will kill us all eventually.
Yeah,
one way or the other. You're not stopping that from happening.
But what our actual economic doctrine is essentially neoliberalism, which says destroy the environment. We are the markets are so strong, we will come up with a technology to fix it, and that will be profitable and a new industry.
It means we're gonna leave, and you're stuck with it.
Yeah, and it's like, no, that's bullshit, you guys. But yeah, so if there are aliens and they are doing that, they need to fucking stop appealing to these guys. They need to find another way to talk to. They need to make a TikTok account or something, you know.
TikTok.
Supposedly TikTok they're on the friendly level with the Chilean government down there.
Yeah, other governments are way more transparent.
The Peruvian government too.
Yeah. Yeah, that stuff. Or there was the old Jewish statesman from Israel who was like, oh yeah, there's a galactic federation. What is like that shit? I hear that, I'm like, are we seeing early dementia here? And that's why we're getting that, or because that's one of the things where I just have a hard time imagining that actually exists. Because if we're that, you know, if we've already joined the space UN, so to speak, why keep that a secret at that point? Shit's going swimmingly, right?
And man, if these aliens are going to share any technology with us, at this point, I'll just accept the one that it sucks the CO2 out the atmosphere. Seriously, like I'll forget the hovercrafts and the elements. I'll just take that one. Just give me the giant vacuum cleaner that goes from blow to suck, and we can stop the global warming. I'll take that.
Experiment with that by myself. No reason. Just promise me it won't rip it off, aliens.
The Million Man Suck, where we all just hold vacuum cleaners out the window and try to suck the CO2.
There's a Whitest Kid You Know sketch where there she is. There's a Whitest Kid You Know sketch where there's a guy in a vacuum store and it keeps going, "Don't buy that one, it will suck your dick off." And then
you got sharp teeth.
It's so good, so good. Yeah. Oh, by the way, Trevor Moore, who was in the Whitest Kids, passed away, and I had a friendship with him. He was a great guy. Today they were doing their first live stream together on Twitch all together, and all we know is that it was an accident. That's all they've said, and we know from official things that he died in his yard. But they did this thing where they're on the stream today where they're like, everyone wants to know how Trevor died. Well, he died trying to suck his own dick. That was what it was. Pretty good. I was like, okay, it's pretty good. It was funny. But anyways, Florida frog. Bob claimed on Joe Rogan that they came from some sort of archaeological dig. Yeah, it was one of them, right? It was one of them.
Yeah, there was 8 or 9 of them, and one of them was that.
He says there was 9.
I want the top hat UFO, because every time I play Mario Odyssey, I'm like, did it look like this kind of top hat? like Mario's top hat ship? Like, was it this? The top hat UFO is the one that just gets no love.
Yeah.
Was it a League of Monocle based detective aliens? Like gentlemen.
Is the top hat
the Indian Vishnu based ones? I like those.
Is that different than like the bell one? Is the top hat different than the bell shaped one, or is that the same one?
No, it's different.
Different one. Okay. Yeah. I am partial to Bob Lazar's sport model. It's just so 1950s classic, that it's ridiculous. I mean, it is and it isn't. If that's real, it's ridiculous that UFOs look like what we said they did at first.
I imagine they look like how they need to function, not how they would be sold to yuppies in Agura Hills.
Yeah.
I mean, when you just look at what's it like Elon Musk's PS1 truck, like like the fashion comes and goes, man. Like it does not.
That thing was never in style, for the record.
I like it when they do accurate. Like I've been following this Twitter account that accurately recolored Greece or Mesopotamia.
Yeah.
And then it's like all colorful. It's just not the way you imagine how you see it in Troy. It's not all brown and dust. It's just everything was painted vibrant. Like the pyramids were white that had gold tops, and
I saw an archaeological dig at Pompeii, and you could see one of the stalls. Like we always see them in like movies. It's like just fucking blank, like basic. And they uncovered one that has like all kinds of color, and there's drawings all over, things, and it's very detailed because it's what we do, but can you imagine if they showed up in the 70s and like they had like that wood paneling, like Chevy Chase's station wagon, and they
faux wood, like the Atari,
yeah, the Atari faux wood looking thing, UFO wood.
I would love if there was a woody version of like a UFO. Yeah. Yeah, Space Master. It comes in a mint
Space Master 3000.
Yeah, Eugene Levy as an alien.
You got a cup
UFO
holder
huckster.
right here. Your inertial cup holder.
You sure you didn't order that? You sure? I don't know.
You know what? I'll throw it in for free.
I saved this. I saved this until we got to this comment because I kind of scanned it with my eyes and saw it. When I was talking about like how I have like this continuity game I like to play with, what if these things are all true? And it's like, yeah, the archaeological dig thing lines up with Rendlesham, and with if they're able to time travel, they're able to come back, yeah, maybe one of them fucked up and got drunk and left it over here in the cave, and we found it. Doc Brown style, left it, forgot it.
That is one of those things I do like about the setup to Back to the Future 3, where or Back to the Future 2, where he just left the DeLorean in a cave.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm shocked it works, but I mean, Doc did fix it up, right? They just show him at least repairing some stuff.
It was dry enough to where in that part of the land where it wouldn't have, it'd have been fixable.
Yeah, that's that part of the movie I like, where they go to the cave and dig it up and he sees his own grave and stuff. It's a little sequence in the movie that's not like anything else in those films. Actually.
Any other car wouldn't have lasted that long, but because it was an all aluminum body, that's the only reason that car lasted that long.
It's aluminium.
Rick Jones says there might have been more crash saucers around the world we never hear about. And Elizondo has said as much. I mean, unless you consider those ones we've heard about now. But
there's got to be some in Russia and Japan.
Can you see the thing?
The thing, yeah. That's what he says. Yeah, he's all like some the thing shit, And it's like, yeah. It makes me go. It makes me go like when you hear about it. Like Elizondo says that there was one, and I think he says it's Italy, and that they gave it to us after the war, after World War II, and we got it, and that's like interesting. But at the same time, like, what the fuck is up with these things crashing? Like why do they crash? Like I've asked that before. Rob said, well, there was a lightning storm the night of the Roswell incident.
That's right? Their theory.
That's their theory. But then when you go on our UFOs and you read that shit, there's all kinds of stuff with literally like authentic looking UFO photos in lightning storms. You know what I mean? And it's like, well
Lazar said that there was 2 configurations for travel, Omicron and Delta and Omicron. So there's within Earth and outside of Earth, because gravity, he says, operates on 2 levels, gravity A and gravity B. Right. Gravity A is within our gravitational wave, and gravity B is out in space. And that here on Earth is unstable and almost dangerous. That it's really difficult to deal with here, which is why they're erratic and they could be prone to crashing or something. When they get into space, the emitters basically just rotate into a configuration. The UFO doesn't fly like this, it flies like this.
Yeah.
So that the emitters like move gravity out the way, and it just essentially rolls through. It bends space out the way and rolls like a bowling ball. Yeah. It's not like pushing through.
Yeah. It's like rolling or falling. I kind of heard it both ways.
Like Slave One tumbling.
Mm-hmm. You mean the fire
Luke's Boba Fett starship tumbles. So, but that would explain, like, well, if it can be taken out by lightning, how can it traverse across the galaxy? Well, because it's not really traversing across the galaxy. It's not going through asteroid fields. It's bending space. Yeah, so it's outside of all of that. You'd never run into a planet. You'd never hit anything. That's why you can see stars that are actually behind the sun, because space is warping and bending to the gravitational pull of the sun. So you're seeing light that's behind an object. It's so hard for our minds to get around sometimes, I think.
Yeah, no, and it would also change, as we said before, time. Because time is relative. Like the best example I always like to use is when we send satellites up to space, they have to write a patch for the clock, because when you're traveling at 17,000 miles an hour around the Earth, time is relative and it changes it. So hey, Mr. Junk 3P, how's it going, dude? Aliens was amazing. That is true.
True.
Yeah, that's as an adult, I learned to like Alien a lot more. And I do. I mean, I actually love Aliens and Prometheus. I think Prometheus is a fantastic conversation about aliens.
Great in 3D too, by the way.
Yeah, it was. It was very good in 3D. The sequel was dog shit, and I love Danny McBride. He's like one of my favorite comedians. But that movie sucked. That was like the Aliens to Alien version, but that movie doesn't get that movie doesn't need an Aliens. You know what I mean? It doesn't work.
Like on the first one, it's like we don't really see the alien a lot. There's not a lot of things that the aliens are doing, as versus to James Cameron's, where we see them kidnapping the individuals and actually implanting them on this structures, these biostructures that they've built, and then so they can implant them with their eggs and whatnot. And so seeing that added to the aliens canon from James Cameron, that made it a little bit better too. So that's why I think I'm more into like Aliens better than Alien.
Yeah, I think Prometheus, though. So Ridley Scott spoke about how Alien 1 was like a remake of this movie called like The House on the Haunted Hill or something. It was like a spooky house story in space. And when I think of Prometheus, when they're like, why are the scientists so dumb? They're getting picked off. I'm like, I wonder if he made that like a remake of Friday the 13th. It's a slasher film where don't pretend these are scientists. They're like camp counselors.
They're not scientists. They're space truckers.
And every time they have sex or they do something that goes, they do something that gets themselves picked off because they violate some, like, there's like those rules of the slasher films.
Yeah.
Right. And when anyone violates one of those rules, they die. And so it's the person who's the most virtuous who doesn't.
Right.
Right. And I keep thinking like that's an element of Prometheus that I wouldn't put beyond Ridley Scott to do. However, the part that I find most captivating is the engineers building, seeding entire planets. Like that's the more interesting story. The Mouth of Madness meets the Asimov's like, engineers kind of stuff is
right.
More interesting than the slasher scientist story,
Rick Jones says, I think the triangle black UFOs are the government reproduction ones.
I'd love to see the government have an 8 mile wide triangle.
Yeah. I think he's talking about the TRB3. Is that what it is? I think
something like that.
Yeah. It's like this, like rumored, kind of craft, or I don't know if it's a drone or a craft that the government was working on. And yeah, and like there's been like supposed photos of it, but yeah, I don't know because like when you do hear government people talking about it, they seem to allude to those being real, and along with Tic Tacs.
Because you're a boy and you have to take a shower.
I gotta take a shower, kid. It makes me think that like, yeah, there's a triangle. There's a stealth fighter that looks like a triangle. I mean, it's such a basic geometric shape that why wouldn't it exist? In all kinds of different ways and different things, it's completely possible. But all at the same time, I'm not discounting what you're saying in the sense that, yeah, like I bet you there have been times when people have seen I can't remember if it's called is it TR3B? I think the TR3A. I'm probably saying it wrong, so don't hold it against me.
The Air Force one they had the schematics of like several years ago.
There's like an A, right? And the A is official. And the B is the one that everybody's like, that's the UFO, you guys.
Sure, that sure is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely silent. 1 to 8 mile wide.
But yeah. The Phoenix Lights, like thing that thing, the craft and the Phoenix Lights experience, I don't know what you call it, the encounter or whatever, that thing's like as big as a mountain. Like we don't have that. Like that's
we don't have that now. We didn't have it in the 90s. We sure as shit didn't have it in the 70s.
There was one at I think it's a Belgium soccer game that shows up that is bigger than the film.
The stadium, yeah, it's bigger than the stadium.
Yeah, everybody at the stadium sees it.
When I say 8 miles, I'm not being like, I'm not.
You're talking about Slim Shady, the real Slim Shady.
Yeah, I'm talking about that's right. Rabbit,
8 Mile guy.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah, Lauren Murphy, right? Murphy.
He's Aporansis,
Mom Spaghetti, and the Falcon. The Falcon
on the Jedi Council with the little white head.
Moody
rapper. Sorry.
There's a pimple on the Jedi's white head. So, yeah, but no, there were legitimately 8 mile wide triangles. Like this isn't even. It's just, I wish we could like, what was it? What's her face? there was what's her face? Catherine Austin Fitz was one who was constantly trying to audit the military.
Mm-hmm.
She was talking about black budgets for the longest time. She goes, "Look, if you want to know where half these UFOs go, we have all these black budgets that disappear into holes."
Well, why don't white people get the budgets too? That's what I want to know.
and I'm like, look, our military loves. There aren't that many secrets. I had heard about the stealth battleships that were hanging out at Coronado for about 5 years, and then they appear. The stealth fighter was rumored for about 5 years, and then it appears at Gulf War. Firefox is the SR-71 Blackbird. Something that goes so fast it's undetectable. Turns out we've had it since the 60s. These are the secrets everyone... Huh?
I have a story about that.
Okay.
As a kid, my babysitter babysat as a small kid, babysat kids from down at McDonnell Douglas and Northrop, and down in towards Long Beach, down towards the like Long Beach Airport area and stuff like that. And as a kid, it was rumored, and everyone was talking about it in Lakewood, everywhere, all the time. And one of the parents literally opens up a portfolio in her bag and shows us the stealth bomber like 3 or 4 years before it was like confirmed to be real.
Right.
And everybody
it's
knew
not a mile wide, is it? It's a little ship, guys. It's not like, guys, a mile wide, like, and completely silent is just something we didn't have in the 90s and we ain't got today.
Yeah.
No one has. And if anyone had it, they'd be showing it off. We'd be showing it off in any way we could imagine. It'd be in a Transformers movie. The government would be doing everything it can to show you how badass we are. What do we show off now? We show off drones and Xbox controllers.
The closest thing I've seen is that Ace Combat game on Xbox, and they have a gigantic V-wing drone ship that launches its own drones that's maybe 500 feet wide or something like that.
But the Japanese, though, love to work in Ace Combat is a Namco game, and it's all jazz and anime.
I know.
It's fun.
But I was like, that's the closest thing that I can even see.
Florida Frog says he wouldn't honestly mind a super star destroyer appearing in the atmosphere suddenly. It would.
Yeah, that's the thing. If the holographic technology exists, bring it to Mario World at Universal. Like, I want giant Koopa flying around. That is the tech that, if Redfern is right, then I want that holographic technology. I want it in my own backyard. I just want it outside my window where I can,
Well, imagine how cool it would be if we could not have to get on an airplane and it was just like a park that you got on and it like took you over to where you needed to go. And you're just like, hey, we're out here in the pool. We're playing soccer.
A mile wide park we could all just, hang out on and then go anywhere we want. Yeah, it'd be amazing.
In the sky. I mean, it would be great. I'd do it for fun if that was, but yeah. I like I said, I could definitely see, like, I know I always hear people going like, maybe we just modeled this stuff off of that stuff. And it's like, yeah, maybe. But like I said, basic geometric shapes. Was George Lucas when he came up with the Super Star Destroyer?
Right.
Was he an inside? Did he have inside information? Was he in on it? It's like, no, he wasn't. It's a very basic geometric shape that why wouldn't it exist? You know what I mean? Why wouldn't it
those
be
military vehicles
right?
are based for function, not for design selling things. So they needed to evade radar. How does radar work? It bounces off certain things. So if you want to hide yourself, you can do one of two things. You can go super fast, which is highly unstable, and you might fly into a plane if you're not. Can you imagine flying an SR-71 Blackbird? It's got to be one of the most frightening experiences known to man. Like the G-forces alone I couldn't imagine how frightening it must be to fly one of those things. So then you're like, all right, we need a smarter way to do it. Rather than go really fast, we'll find a way to deflect. How would it work? Flat surfaces. We need to build a ship out of a bunch of flat surfaces. Like, how do we do that? Like,
there wasn't like did I talk about this before? There was an Elizondo interview, and he was talking about how geometrical shapes fold into themselves, into each other, and about how, like, when you have a saucer, you basically have one reactor, but when you look at these triangles, you could put one of the anti-gravity devices, whatever you want to call it, onto each part of it, and how all of these if you consider this as one device, it fits onto all of the various crafts that we're seeing. I don't really understand how it works with the Tic Tac in his example though. But anyways, he goes and he says that it like he's working on they have this eloquent way of putting it, and it explains it really. And people keep asking him for the update on it, and he says that it's coming. That's what I keep saying. So I hope that's true. But yeah, there's a podcast too. Oh, her name is Gomez. I don't remember her first name right now, but I retweeted it, and she was supposed to have Elizondo on Friday, but the weather situation with the hurricanes and stuff messed up the travel. So he was on a plane while they were supposed to do it. But on Friday, sounds like on Friday, Elizondo is coming out of his interview retirement that he's been on, or his media
Sabbatical.
blackout. Yeah. And I know he said that he was having some like health issues for a while. I think that might have been something to do with that. But it sounds like he's going to be doing interviews again, like starting I guess on Friday. And so I think it'll make for probably something interesting to talk about on the next show. We just lost Twitch. Nobody who was there. Oh, I'll just remove it.
Twitch is down. 3 people.
Yeah, bye Twitch. We won't get that guy today asking us if we want to become rich, which sucks because I like feeling that sense of opportunity in the air at the end of every episode.
I can get 8,000 followers.
Want to be famous? Want to be rich? So, oh wait. Oh, sorry, Rick Jones. He said, anyway, the first daytime sighting I had was silver. That looked like that one seemed alien. Yeah, see, that's super fascinating. Like, sounds like it's from Naboo. You know, and if it was I don't think American military stuff would be silver. Probably not on purpose, anyways. Not unless it had to be.
Be a big flag.
Yeah, it'd be black or gray, right? Why don't they ever make airplanes blue like the sky?
They
do that? Do they?
There's some companies. It's mostly other countries that paint blue schemes on their planes. Not a lot of the U.S. planes are blue.
Yeah, I don't remember. Have I asked you, dude? Have you ever seen a UFO?
Yeah, you asked me. I haven't seen one that I can say that it was definitively a UFO.
Yeah.
I've seen a few weird things in the sky throughout my life, here and there. But my mother was a firm believer in UFOs, and she said that she saw one, and then she also saw Bigfoot when she was younger in the northern part of California.
So let me ask you this, because like you kind of heard tonight how I feel about a family member I trust, respect, and believe in every aspect, telling me that he was praying for 2 hours and saw Jesus, and that Jesus he has this light that came over him, and he felt like, you know what I mean, like euphorically the glory of God. He couldn't look at it. It was almost the Raiders of the Lost Ark moment. He couldn't look at it. It was too powerful. But I really believe him. I believe he had that experience. I don't know if I believe it was truly what he thinks it was, or that it was, he meditating, and it was, I come up with all these but anyways, where I'm going with this is, having heard this from your mother, does it make you believe it, or do you run into that same inner skepticism that I have? Like when you hear Santa Claus is real, does it have that same effect on you, or like what's your?
Well, growing up, I was always surrounded by a lot of folks who were very skeptical and very, not just skeptical, but what is it? When you stick to your beliefs and stuff like that, very, it's a lot of Mexican folks who were very superstitious. That's the word I'm looking for. And so, and most of the kids I grew up around didn't speak English by the time they were in grade school, and I did. And so a lot of the stuff that I would hear about, like demons and monsters and stuff like that, I'd hear from my other school friends and stuff, and I'd be like, what? I had no idea what they were talking about. I didn't go to Catholic
What is it? Kukui or something like that.
Yeah, the El Kukui and
Kukui,
Chupacabra and all that stuff like that. But so I started reading at an early age, and I watched a lot of movies, and so I found myself to be a little bit more intelligent than a lot of my classmates and stuff, and so I tended to question a lot of things that I saw. Even for movies, like I learned early on that movies were movies.
Yeah.
But then there's also some truth to certain legends, and there's truth to certain reasons why people do what they do. Like they wouldn't start those things if there wasn't some sort of a truth behind it, and it may not be the actual like thing that they thought it was. But it's
somebody just got a victory royale in the background, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Someone just got tax incentives in Prague, right? I learned firsthand how to make films.
He's rolling it right now. So
no, go on. Sorry.
Little Ricky McCollum.
Yeah, I know. And so every time I would love to watch any of those National Geographic History Channel stuff, especially as the History Channel came on, and Ancient Aliens or all those little when the Sci-Fi Channel would have Destination Unknown and all those kind of things, and TLC channels. But then there's also stuff on the internet that you could read, and there was a lot of weird stuff. And for me, it was too weird. So I didn't get into it. And only as I've gotten older, and I still see that the way that our government bullshits us about a lot of things, and it's disgusting almost in a way to see that they're trying to keep it from us.
Yeah, it's frustrating, and
whether it's true or not. Honestly, just tell us. Just give us all the info. I don't care if like they said one crashed and this is all we were able to get from it. Like, just fine. That's fine. Then we can move on to the next thing.
Right. Yeah. I totally I identify with what you're saying. It's kind of funny because as a kid, I grew up in a poor suburb of Los Angeles called Paramount, California. And my neighborhoods, my schools were mostly, I'm going to say like probably 80% Latino, 10% black, 10% white, probably. That's what it seemed like anyway. And I always wish I knew Spanish, but whenever I would go to hang out, Weta is what they call me, and they were so nice to me, loved me, but they wanted their kids to speak English with me. They wanted English to run off, and I never learned Spanish for that reason. It's like
they only wanted you to speak English to them. That's right.
Yeah, and like I have so many friends with backgrounds where it's like, yeah, we started off as migrants, migrant workers, stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know any Spanish. I don't know what the hell they're talking about half the time. When they're speaking Spanish, that is.
When I got to fourth grade, we had two books. We had an English book and a Spanish book for the kids in class, and it was called Hasta Luego. That would help transition the kids from Spanish into English.
In my elementary school, you were a duck or a goose. And what they were doing is they'd have you go to a class and you would go there and take roll. Then they would say, okay, ducks, time to go to your class. And then the ducks would go. And that's how they were actually keeping a segregated language program that was outlawed at the time. I don't know if it was for the better of the students in the end. It was like, no, we need to teach them in Spanish so they learn and then they'll get English as they go. I don't know what it was, but I told a college professor that. They were like, that's illegal. That didn't happen. That's not true. And I'm like, fuck you. Yes, it did. Because I was a duck and I remember this,
Yeah, you just invented that story.
Yeah. Like yeah. But you can't even tell somebody you were a duck and they were a goose. How are you going to explain to people that there's UFOs, right?
So that just led to me question a lot of the stuff. I mean, I don't believe a lot of the stuff they tell us.
Yeah.
About anything, honestly.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, when it comes down to telling an official story, people are going to tell the most beneficial and easiest one usually. And, that's gotten me in trouble before, where somebody starts asking me questions and I don't want to tell them it's none of their fucking business, but I'm just like, here, this, whoa, and then they think they caught you in a lie, and it's just like, you know what? I should have just told you none of your business. But
got a great example here in our town. We have the ex-mayor named Michael Tubbs, and he had this show or this documentary thing done from HBO that paid him to do this documentary thing, and it was called Stockton on My Mind. Well, he just got voted out of office by double digits in this town because they were given all this money and it went nowhere, and our homeless has quadrupled since he was our mayor, and he was never in the city and stuff like that. It's I'm not gonna keep going.
Right. But it would be cool if Tubbs was laundering money, because
he's under investigation.
That's awesome. That's fucking cool.
He's got a lawsuit. He's under right now under indictment with a couple other guys because there was a guy named Sammy Nunez who was running something called the Friends and Fathers Family Foundation, and he just got arrested for molesting a family member under the age of 10.
Okay.
Yeah. So he was involved with Tubbs and his whole committee and whatever office and that whole thing.
Wait, somebody from Twitch just said what's up. So Twitch is working, but one time when I asked Rob about Twitch, I'm like, we don't get anybody on Twitch. He's like, you have to interact with Twitch right away. So I'm jumping right on this one, and I'm saying, get Lucky Elk, what's up, man?
Yeah, what's up?
We did it.
We did Superhero Man, the superhero cool man.
We got
8,000 followers. What if that happened? Then you'd be like, fucking Rob was right. I owe him a Twinkie.
Is Buckshot says the Trumbull County 911 dispatch calls audio is my favorite of any audio source in an account with a UFO. Is that the one where the UFO dispatcher, like all the cops see it, and like the UFO dispatcher like goes outside and looks at it and stuff?
It's either that one or the guy that goes out and there's a country road.
Okay, yeah, because that one story about the 911 call operator is like completely fascinating to me. So okay. So he's like, what's this all about? Oh, he said Buckshot. Did Buckshot say yep?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So he's all, well, shit, y'all just talk about anything or no, dude. We're talking about UFOs tonight because we are
Saturday night, dude. We do Star Wars 5 days a week.
We talk about Star Wars, and then tonight we're talking about UFOs because it's on the brain.
But and as a visual effects guy, Jason, when you bring up Trumbull, I'm just thinking Douglas Trumbull, from 2001 IMAX, right? The guy who saved Star Trek, the motion picture. I mean, all right.
Yeah, but in that, in that one, you have essentially like a UFO goes like over this cop car. The cop's car, I believe, breaks down, Close Encounter style. And he's just like, what the hell's going on in my car? And then like he sees the UFO, and then I guess he gets on the radio, and then eventually like other cops like 5 miles away or something like that are seeing it as well. And then the dispatcher is like dealing with this, and she thinks it's a prank at first. There's a part of the story that makes me go, I don't know about that part, maybe, but she claims years later that she actually went outside and saw it with her own two eyes. And on the official accounts before that, she never said that. I guess that was breaking protocol. And it's made me wonder if after telling the story after all of these years, she wanted to say, you know what I mean? Not to call somebody a liar.
She made herself part of this story.
Yeah. It made me kind of wonder, like, but that's what she says. So you essentially have a bunch of, once again, though, you have officers now, and you have a dispatcher who are saying it. So once again, I guess you could say we can't believe the police all the time, but
I know, right? Yeah.
But here we go.
Better watch yourself. Better think about the consequences of your actions.
Yeah, right.
You know what? Speaking of cops and aliens, it reminds me of, like, did you watch the second season of Fargo?
No, I never actually got caught up on Fargo for no reason at all, but I plan to. But
I recommend just you want me to not spoil that then?
No, spoil it. It's okay.
There's this whole thing at the end where they go to this motel that's in the movie, right? But it's in the 70s. The second one's set in the 70s. It's great because they wear all the burgundy state trooper outfits that no one would wear anymore.
Yeah.
right in the middle of this like shootout, a fucking UFO, like there's a UFO event, and there's these little UFO sightings peppered throughout the season randomly that people see, that all the other characters are experiencing, and it's not tied to anything, but this thing occurs right during this, and this guy gets fucking blinded by the light.
Like, is it like a little like Twin Peaks almost, where it starts to go with that stuff?
Yeah. But it doesn't ever go with the alien. It's just it's this thing going on in the background of this like 70s mobster, police story. So I just thought it was really great. It's one of those things where, cops would, like, if you were to do a modern take of Battle for LA, like, for me, it would start off like colors and then go right into like the cops actually like get fucked with by the aliens, you know what I mean? In a way that they don't know what to do, like none of their so-called training is going to help with that,
Get luck yoke. You ever seen a UFO? You ever see something in the sky you couldn't explain? And if not, do you want to? And if it could speak to you telepathically, would you call to it? Because that is where my brain keeps going. I want to see one. I know that because I do believe that people are seeing the Tic Tacs, people are seeing the triangles, people are seeing the saucers, right?
I sure shit wouldn't crawl into a saucer, bro. Like, but I could tell you right now.
Because if I see one, I'm going to talk to that thing telepathically. I'm going to be like, my name is Jason. Let's hang out. What's up, space homies?
And it replies,
yeah.
Bend over.
I'm like,
right for probing.
I'm like, I am one of you, it turns out. Let's go.
Let's buy my tambourines.
Or I'll
be
like,
Riley. Turns out Riley is an alien. Like,
yeah.
God damn it.
Well, I mean, like when we take that one account that we talked about last week, they end up cooking the guy some like horrible, what was it, like French toast or something? It was like something like horrible bread or whatever. I'll totally make some aliens like a good breakfast burrito if they want. I will offer it. But seriously, if you ever see a UFO, would you do that? Would you try to say, hey, I want to come hang out? Or would you freak? Like, if you're trying to be real with yourself, though, because I know at first I would have freaked out, but now I've mentally prepared myself that if I ever do, I'm going to be like, let's go. Because I love my kids, but honestly, kids, gonna have to Richard Dreyfuss you guys. Have a good life. It's time for you guys to figure it out on your own.
Jodie Foster, okay to go.
I don't know. 1970s Terry Garr or aliens, man.
Fair enough. That is true.
Or it could be alien Terry Garr and Mom and Dad Save the World.
You know what, though? I know myself. Whenever I get a really hot girlfriend, I always go, this is only the beginning. Imagine what I'm going to do next time. I'm that kind of asshole. No. I'm that kind of asshole. So the truth is, I'm probably going to go to space and probably end up jumping ship to some other aliens, but these ones won't be cool. They'll probably kill me. I just want you guys to know, if it happens, there's a good chance the first one that takes me, that's not the one that killed me. They were probably cool.
We call him Jason Glom.
Yeah, that sounds right.
You wouldn't call him Star-Lord.
He's the Mark Fernandez of aliens. He just hangs out with the famous people. He ignores the plebes. I met that dude. He did that to me. He just brushed my ass off.
Dear Zeta 17 peoples, they call me the spoiler. That's what I'm going to tell them.
I got a great Bryan Singer story before we roll, dude.
Okay.
So it was Comic-Con 2005, right? The year before Man of Steel came out.
Okay.
Right? And Bryan Singer, was that one in the documentary of Superman Returns where he's there in a window showing the Superman symbol, but they don't know, right? Because it's like reverse mirrored. Right. It was the announcement of Superman Returns. And it was after that happened, it's out the front steps. I'm with my buddy Joe. And Joe used to be this like super lean, almost like a Tarantino meets Luke Owen kind of look, right? He had put on all this weight. And he was a big fan of Bryan Singer. And we walk up to Bryan Singer and he goes, "Hey man, I'm a big fan of you." And he looks at my friend and looks at this guy next to him, was way hotter. And he ignores my friend and talks to the other guy. And I was like, burn! Like right in front of Bryan Singer to Joe. I was like, "You got burned. You need to lose weight, Joe." Like you know, 2003's Joe.
I never tell somebody I'm a big fan. If I'm not fit enough, I'm always afraid they're gonna go, "Yeah, you are, fat fuck."
He literally gave him that look, like, "No, I'm like, you're not, no, no, work out, do some push-ups." Like, it was hilarious. I didn't even know Bryan Singer was gay. I didn't know, you know, like I was just like, he was like, "Ooh, you're not attractive enough." Ha ha ha.
Yeah. So. But yeah, Buckshot confirms basically an entire town calling in from midnight to dawn. Yeah, I actually I think we'll talk about that one because I mean I gave it like a brief overview of it, but when you actually like look at the whole testimonials and stuff, there's a lot of stuff there.
That'd be a good one to go over in that Trumbull thing, like if we dig it up a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. So Buckshot, we will be digging into that one, and I want to, when there's like on this show or on our little UFO weekends, a little UFO weekend getaways. I want to talk about like when there's like current events that have happened, but obviously that doesn't always happen. Like I know I'm coming into this a little bit in the spoiled territory where shit has been happening and it's been more fascinating to like talk about. But yeah, I do want to dig into these like little these cases. The Rendlesham one, I wish I had done a little bit more research on it. And so in the future, I'm definitely gonna do a better job on that. But like I said, I thought I was going to be able to find a more comprehensive thing on it than I did that I found. And
there's only so much you can have, even when like Sprague or Coast or Knapp, whomever, when they interview people, like they might be hyper knowledgeable on one thing, but like not like Nick Redford was bringing up the holographic Olympics stuff. You know what I mean? Like they know their field. They don't have they don't always have a giant wide variety of stuff because there's just not enough time in the day. So, these are good surface level conversations,
With only 1 minute left in the show where we're saying goodbye, we'll put the banner on that says you could give us super chats. But if you want to support the show, you could become a channel member on the youtube.com if that's your preference. But if you want to become a Patreon supporter instead for the Making Star Wars show, you can get audio versions only in your podcatchers and your podcast feed. So if that's an easier way for you to consume the show, for the most part, we don't always have visual aids going on. So I find it just as valuable as this. But I appreciate everybody who does support the show. And before we go, let's hear Buckshot's last comment. I recommend listening to the Art Bell Coast to Coast with the guy who came across the tapes by accident. Okay. I'll check that out. Yeah. And so we'll dig into that one probably next time. I don't think I could be wrong. The other Jason might be back with us next week, but I felt like he was having a trip this next week. But we will but if Jason doesn't come back, I think we'll do that one next for sure. And then if he's not back next week, because I know he has some stuff that he was gonna bring to the table too that he wanted to like talk about. And on the next one too, I remembered too late. I want to show the videos of the Jetpack Man because there's been a Jetpack Man in LA, and I have a feeling that Jetpack Man and these things that was the witch in Mexico and the one in Canada that was recently seen. I think these are all the same thing.
It's Commander Cody, actually.
But when you use the 5 observables against it, I don't conclude that it's a UFO. I think it could be some kind of weird drone satellite kind of spy thing. Wouldn't surprise me if it was something in that direction, because I could see that thing having fans on the inside and having a camera on the bottom with the way that it's shaped.
It says Microsoft.
Yeah, right.
All right.
It's a little telescope looking in there, George McFly style, at swimming pools in the summertime. Who knows? But I want to look at that stuff and dig into it. So.
Not for nothing, my favorite George McFly moment in Back to the Future 1, and no one ever gives it enough love. It's when he's in the diner with Marty and the mayor, Jackie Wilson. He sweeps the floors in You know,
and
he's good. Goldie Wilson. Is it Goldie Wilson? Goldie Wilson.
Yes.
He starts going off about how like he's going to be mayor one day and he's going to school. And there's this brief scene where Crispin Glover just looks at Marty and he gives him this look like, I've heard this shit a million fucking times. It doesn't even focus on it, but if you just pay attention to him right there, it's so great.
Like, yeah. What, Mr. Wilson, I'm going to go ahead and clean up this town.
Yeah. Love me some Back to the Future. Last week after the show, I watched Bill and Ted. I think I'm going to, on this one, put on some Back to the Future. So we'll see you guys next week. And we'll be talking about UFOs. We'll be back on Monday, finishing or towards the back end of reading the Duel of the Fates script, the Colin Trevorrow episode 9 that was not made, which I am having a really good time with, by the way, guys. It's fun. It's been fun reading that and doing that one. And
have the views gone down every episode?
No, actually, I don't think so. But what you always have like a lag on them because people get caught up and then they catch on, you know. But I don't do it for the views. I do it for
the fame.
I do it for you, the little guy at home.
The little guy,
you little tiny, small, minuscule piece of shit who will never be
the Harry Knowles of the world.
No. He's my friend on Twitter.
I shouldn't say names.
He's my friend on Twitter. He's going to be like, "What the fuck, Jason? I thought we were friends."
I met him at Comic-Con once. He was really nice. I don't know why I pick fights with people I like.
What the fuck, dude from Dark Horizons? What's your fucking problem, bro?
Man, Dark Horizons guy just got all mad about Batman for a while.
How's it going, man? That right there is my protector in Fortnite. Which, So, anyways, by the way, tell him last night me and my daughter got 4 victory royales in a row. So he needs to step it up. He needs to step it up.
Yeah, step it up. They got 4 victories last night
in a row.
In a row, he said.
I think we actually play too much, and then like the weekend people come and we just tear them up. That's what it really is. It's actually sadder than anything. But we will see you guys next week talking about UFOs, and we'll see you guys on Monday talking about Star Wars. And there's a button I have to hit to end the show, and that says goodbye.